upon a time there was truth in journalism, where brave men and women gave voice to the voiceless. But then the corporations bought the journalist, poisoning the news that we are fed. With those tainted sources, all we ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative is the truth of mass suffering, injustice and corruption throughout our land. Status quo, status quo, status quo, status quo. To expose this shift to oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people. From sea to sea, the people were empowered to share their truth. Their voices no longer stifled, reclaimed their power. Join the media revolution now.
Hey there, Jordan Sheridan live on a Sunday, March 29th, 2020. Hope everyone is doing okay, relatively okay in these trying times, and staying as healthy as we could stay. Big show, big show today for the marathon live stream. Have an interview I just did this morning with Wendell Potter, who is kind of a big for-profit healthcare whistleblower. Used to be a big executive at the private healthcare industry, and for years since then has been speaking out and exposing how the for-profit healthcare industry is basically robbing you blind, thanks to the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. So we're going to play that interview in a little bit, talking about there is now reports that healthcare rates, private healthcare rates that Joe Biden's not changing, are going to go up possibly 40%. Yes, 40% next year. That's after going up 20% last year. 40% just because of the coronavirus. And yet we're told how you're going to pay for it, for Medicare for All. So going to have that interview in a little bit with Wendell Potter. Also have a lot of great stuff to show you as far as the campaign. Technically, Bernie's still running, and I'm not going to give you false hope. I don't think it's likely that he's going to win the nomination. However, I do think he's got a big opportunity here, whether it is to win the nomination or to dramatically shame the Democratic Party. And it's up to him whether he's going to take it. So I'm going to show you how he could take that opportunity. We have almost 300 viewers watching right now. So if you could be so kind, every one of you, to do your patriotic duty, even if you're not American, we do have international viewers. Please smash that like button. It's the thumbs up button right under the live stream. The more people that press the like button, the more people that will see this. YouTube does not make it so easy to see the live stream, unfortunately. Hold on. My cord is going all over the place. 1 second. YouTube does not make it so easy for you to see the live stream. So please press that like button. It's your patriotic duty. You could also follow us at Status Coup on the Twitter. That would help us greatly. Also, we are live on Twitch right now. That's twitch.tv/Status Coup. And join our email list by going to statuscoup.com. Enter your email right there. Let me see. Hold on. All right. I think we're good. So I'd like to start with telling you we're going to do something a little bit special here. We're in New York. I'm in New York City right now, which is the epicenter of what's going on in the country. It is the most coronavirus cases. Let me give you a little update on just how many cases there are right now in the United States, in New York, and around the world.
Good morning, and thanks for joining us this Sunday. It's been another shocking and sobering week. Since we came on the air last Sunday, the number of cases in the U.S. has skyrocketed, climbing from roughly 25,000 cases to nearly 125,000 cases this morning. And worldwide, close to 700,000 confirmed cases. In the U.S., the virus has now claimed more than 2,100 lives, including the tragic death of an infant in Illinois announced yesterday. While New York has emerged as the epicenter in the U.S., cities like Detroit, Boston, New Orleans, and Chicago are experiencing a dramatic rise in cases and bracing for impact.
So, as you can see, we're already over 100, we're already over 2,000 deaths here in America, and unfortunately, I think it's going to get worse. I don't think at all it's possible that that's the actual number. Honestly, I mean, I would expect it to be a lot higher because a lot of people have not been tested. And a lot of people are not even able to get into the hospital right now. Hospitals are being overrun. So that number is going to rise, very unfortunately. But Status Coup wants to do our part. So today, we're going to bring our GoFundMe out of retirement. Let me show you. For those of you that are new to Status Coup, we, in over a year, our goal was $85,000. So we essentially passed that by over $5,000. We haven't been actively trying to raise money in the GoFundMe because we did meet our goal. However, we've kept it open. So what we want to do today, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, we've lost about 30 members so far because people are getting laid off, this and that. So we hope if you have a couple bucks, you could throw it in the GoFundMe today, both for Status Coup, to make up for some of those membership lost. Most of the people that are canceling are actually sending us messages. So sorry, love you guys, but I'm getting laid off. So we totally get it. We're definitely going to lose membership because we're not immune to this. Our members are losing their jobs just like anybody else. So today, if you pitch in any amount to the GoFundMe, we're going to take 20% of GoFundMe donations today and Super Chats. So we will add it up at the end. We're going to take 20% of the donations you send in, and we are going to send that to a charity that Jen has vetted here in New York City. We're going to send it so that we could get more masks to this New York City hospitals, which are right now, unfortunately, they're being depicted as a war zone here in America, totally overrun with coronavirus patients. If you have seen on Twitter, there are literally nurses wearing garbage bags over themselves because they don't have the proper gowns. A lot of them are wearing one mask for the week and have to basically clean it with Purell, which is not exactly a way to, stay safe. If you're a nurse or doctor putting yourselves on the line, this is not a scam. We are going to send 20% of any donations today to this charity. I will put the link of the charity in the Super Chat if you would like to vet it yourself. Jen, I trust, and we've looked at it, and it's reputable. They've raised a lot of money, so we're hoping to help them raise more money today. It seems like maybe we could do more than our federal government is doing. So hopefully, if you got a couple bucks, drop it in there to our GoFundMe. Here's the link. It would help Status Coup, and we are going to help this charity if we can. And thank you, Mr. Methuselah, getting us started there in the Super Chat. Let's read it. Thanks, Status Coup, for all your always insightful analysis. We thank you. We thank you for supporting us. So let's get started. We got almost 500 people watching right now, so remember to press that like button. 500 people watching, almost 300 of you have pressed the like button, so keep pressing the like button. Let's get that audience up there. So, hold on, dear, if you want to check downstairs, I don't know, it should be here. So I want to show you some images that Jen put together to show you what our capitalist system, let's see what our capitalist system is doing for the folks right now. You ready for this? Okay. Looking to raise $60 for our room. My disability hits my account tomorrow. I've been ordered to stay home today by a doctor, and if my fever gets worse, to go to the ER. PayPal. As soon as I pay this, I could sleep. Laid off from my job because of COVID-19. If anyone is interested in online voice lessons, hit me up. Or if anyone is able to help, my Venmo is Brittany Kelly. Our landlord is still making us pay rent, and I'm stressing. What a dick. I agree. My husband has been in the hospital since February 3rd with pneumonia, but he has all the symptoms of virus, but not tested. Now, with everything going on, I'm trying to find a job because he was our sole income, and we have 4 kids. Please help Venmo Tanya. This pains me to do this, but here goes. I'm an unemployed artist and fighting a hopefully mild case of COVID-19. Ways to help out. And her art site. My town is among some of the hardest hit areas in Queens. I already lost my job, and I feel like my dad will be next to lose his. If that happens, we'll have no income for who knows how long. I've been trying to get help from Cash App and other celeb donators for a long time now, but I've had no luck. Please retweet this or help out. My dad is also at risk for catching the virus by going out every day, and if that happens, I don't know what will happen to him. My mom is sick. We've made many visits to the emergency room. She's a hairstylist and won't be able to work for God knows how long. That and the hospital bills. She's already had to take out loans to pay for rent. I'm in college, also out of a job at the moment. Anything helps. And there's a picture of her mom who's having to take out loans while dealing with coronavirus. I currently can't pay for my medications this month. I have spinal surgery coming up for my spinal injury, and I'm honestly so scared of how unwell I will be without my medicine. I'll link my story below. I'm deathly sick with a fever of 100.8, and I could barely breathe. My rent is due, and I have no money, and I will lose my apartment if my rent isn't paid. Please, anything will help. I live with an 8-month-old and a mom on disability, and her Cash App. How's that? How's that for greatest country in the world? How's that for shining city on a hill? By the way, Jen sent me, I think, 10 to 20 more, but I didn't have time to load it all. If Jen and I, or you, want to go through, just hashtag my Venmo or GoFundMe, it is literally exposing the capitalist, you want to call it a system? The capitalist scam. Those people that I just showed you, this fairy tale bailout, it's not going to help those people right now. For the people getting laid off, the money's not coming to them right away. For the people with, Joe Biden during the debate said, coronavirus, you won't have to pay. Oh, yeah? Because those people are already getting hospital bills. The bill, the corporate bailout that Congress just passed has nothing. There's no provisions in there for free testing or free coverage. And what about the people, including ones I've already interviewed, that have gone to the emergency room, were told, well, we don't have any tests. Sorry, go home if you're not feeling well. Quarantine yourself. They're getting hit with a bill. People are having to do GoFundMes for masks. People are having to do GoFundMes to meet their rent. Mothers with coronavirus are laying in a hospital simultaneously having to take out loans to stay afloat. To me, people say on Twitter, now's not the time for politics, Jordan. No, now is the time for politics, because political decisions and political corruption is why you are seeing average people basically being victims of the economic Hunger Games that is capitalism. Political decisions, not just by President Trump, but by the Democratic Party that has enabled this Republican treachery, by the Democratic Party that is bought off by Wall Street, that is bought off by the lobbyists, that is bought off by all the special interests, have created a system with no safety net. There is no safety net. You think Donald Trump is really going to pass legislation that makes coronavirus treatment, which, by the way, estimates are saying it could be up to $35,000 if you've gone to the hospital? You think Donald Trump is going to make that happen? You think Joe Biden is going to make that happen? You're mistaken. And by the way, if you don't believe me, coronavirus may add billions to the nation's healthcare bill. Insurance premiums could spike as much as 40%. 40% next year. With so much still uncertain about how widespread hospitalizations for coronavirus patients will be around the U.S., a new analysis says premiums could increase as much as 40% next year if the pandemic results in millions of Americans needing hospital stays. Quote, health plans went into 2020 with no hint of coronavirus on the horizon, said Peter V. Lee, the executive director of Covered California, the state insurance marketplace created under the Affordable Care Act, which conducted the analysis. To protect businesses and individuals from sharply higher rates, he supports a temporary federal program that would cover some of these costs. Oh, some of these costs. So if you get hit with a $20,000 to $30,000 bill for going to the hospital for coronavirus, God knows how much it costs to be on a ventilator. If you survive after that, we'll cover some of your costs. I don't know. How does that sound if you get hit by a $35,000 to $40,000 bill? We'll cover like $10,000 of that. No insurer, no state planned and put away for something of this significance. That's not to mention, you remember good old Pete Buttigieg? Mayor Pete? Thank you, Betavirus, $10 in the super chat. Democratic Socialists for the win. Couldn't agree more. By the way, if you're coming to this late, Status Coup is doing our part today. Any donation, whether it's through GoFundMe, yes, we are bringing our GoFundMe out of retirement today, or Super Chat. Any amount you give today, we are going to look at the total amount later, and we're going to send 20% of your donations to us, to a charity to try and get more masks to the nurses and the doctors on the front lines here in New York City. I'm not trying to say they're not having problems everywhere in the country, but New York City, unfortunately, is the epicenter. So we want to do our part. It's unfortunate that we as a media company and you as viewers have to contribute masks to our medical professionals, but we do because our federal government and our for-profit healthcare system doesn't give a shit about providing the necessary life-saving equipment for our medical professionals. Remember, if you are a nurse right now, okay? And Jen, if you could put the link to the charity we're trying to send 20% of our funding to. If you're a nurse right now, right? And you're putting masks on, but you only have one mask because your hospital's run out, they are literally taking that mask off and reusing it, even though it's not reusable masks. You're only supposed to use it for, I think a day. They're Purelling it. They're putting hand sanitizer on it or alcohol on it. That's not sanitary enough when those nurses are right next to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of patients with coronavirus. There is literally nurses wearing garbage bags around them instead of the proper shields in America. And we're told we have the best healthcare system. By many Republicans go out and say that. Many Democrats go out and say that. This is what capitalism is. Kathy Lloyd, $50 in the super chat. 20% of that $50 is going towards that charity. And by the way, Status Coup needs the full amount. We're losing members. We're losing funding too. But as progressives, we feel we need to do our part, so we're going to send 20% of the generous donations you send in today so we could contribute to get more masks for the doctors. Thank you so much, Kathy. So, remember Pete Buttigieg saying, how dare you, Bernie Sanders, try and take away Americans' choice? Americans love their private health insurance industry. Americans love their health care providers. They want the choice to keep paying out of pocket thousands and thousands of dollars. Don't take away people's choice. Same thing with Joe Biden. Same thing with Elizabeth Warren when she moonwalked away from Medicare for All. Do not take away people's choice. Well, Bernie Sanders doesn't have to take away their choice because employers right now are taking away their choice. Because when you have health care connected to an employer, if your employer discontinues it because you go on strike, ask the General Motors folks about that a couple months ago, or there's an unforeseen disaster like a highly contagious virus that forces businesses to close down, or in 5 years from now, 7 years from now, 10 years from now, when the inferno comes our way, I don't call it the climate crisis anymore, I call it the inferno, well, businesses are going to have to lay you off then too, because you can't keep your business open if your business is on fire or underwater, right? So literally, and this is from Wendell Potter, who I interviewed this morning, and I'm going to play that interview for you, but I want to read this to you first. This is from Wendell Potter. He was for many, many years an executive at for-profit healthcare industries. Since then, he has been an outspoken critic of the for-profit healthcare industry and a champion of Medicare for All. He says, the tragic effects of our battle with the novel coronavirus are seemingly endless. But arguably the most mind-blowing is this. The very pandemic that threatens to infect and kill millions is simultaneously causing many to also lose their health coverage at their gravest time of need. Here's how. The virus has caused a public health crisis so severe that people have been forced to stay home, causing businesses to shutter and lay off workers, and with roughly half of Americans getting their health insurance from their employer. Again, half of Americans getting that health insurance from their employer that Amy Klobuchar and Pete Buttigieg, how dare you, you're going to rip health care away from their rip people's private health care away, you're going to leave them stranded, the neoliberals say. These layoffs mean not only losing their income, but also their medical coverage. In other words, just as our need for medical care skyrockets in the face of a global pandemic, fewer will have health insurance or be able to afford it. According to one recent report, the cost of treatment for COVID-19 can run around $35,000. As the patient in the report exclaimed, I was pretty sticker shocked. I personally don't know anyone who has that kind of money. So how do we get to such a dire place? Many will sadly lose their jobs over the coming weeks, with one estimate projecting as many as 30%. And as they do, Americans are about to learn something horrifying, how irrational and irresponsible it is for so many to be dependent on employers for health insurance. Take it from me. I'm a former health insurance executive who once profited from this system. It's time for it to stop. That's Wendell Potter. I'm about to play for you the interview I did with him that goes way further on this. But I also want to show you, and let me make sure I'm not missing any super chats here. Love your super chats. Keep it coming. Cheryl Tyler, $20. Thank you, Status Coup. Thank you, Cheryl. And by the way, we have 740 people watching right now. 466 of you have pressed that like button. I need every one of you right now, press the thumbs up button. It makes a huge difference. It gets us around the YouTube suppression. Keep pressing the like button. Oh, Jen just sent me a list of super chats so I don't miss it. Hold on, let me make sure I don't miss any of your super chats. Okay, I think I read all of them so far. So I want to also show you this. Almost 1 in 4 Americans lost job or furloughed because of coronavirus. Nearly 1 in 4 U.S. adults that have been laid off or furloughed during the coronavirus outbreak, yet a bipartisan majority of Americans want businesses to remain closed to slow the spread of the deadly virus despite its impact on the economy, according to a Reuters Ipsos poll. The March 26th to 27th opinion poll released Friday also showed that the public is much more likely to heed the advice of doctors and local government officials than President Trump. So you have 1 in 4, again, 1 in 4 said they have been laid off or furloughed. And that's probably going to get worse because remember, not every part of the country right now is hit as bad as New York. There's parts of the country, states in the country, that just started seeing their first cases like a week ago. So as their numbers go up, they're probably going to have harsher stay-at-home, shelter-in-place. The jobless, the unemployment are going to go up significantly. But what's amazing to me about this, there's a lot that's amazing about this, is this notion. Here's Joe Biden. You know, when he's not stumbling through live streams, forgetting where he is, confusing his wife and sister, among other things, former Vice President Joe Biden on Monday called on the Trump administration to drop an ongoing lawsuit seeking to throw out the Affordable Care Act, citing the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. Quote, at a time of national emergency, which is laying bare the existing vulnerabilities in our public health infrastructure, it's unconscionable that you are continuing to pursue a lawsuit designed to strip millions of Americans of their health insurance and protections under the Affordable Care Act, including the ban on insurers denying coverage or raising premiums due to pre-existing conditions. So basically, what the vice president is trying to say here, I agree in principle they should not be trying to get rid of Obamacare, even though Obamacare is a Band-Aid to a gunshot wound, and frankly, excuse my French, a total blowjob to the insurance industry. What Joe Biden is implying here, thank you, Jordan Vasquez, $5 in the super chat. What Joe Biden is implying here is if he were president, if, I guess, Biden care, which he describes as expanding Obamacare, a public option, if that were in place, everything that I've shown you so far over the last hour, you know, all those tweets with people saying I've had to take out a loan because of my coronavirus bills, the people I've spoken with that literally are uninsured and went to the hospital and are facing now over a $1,000 bill. He's saying if he was in place and his expanded Obamacare was in place, what we're seeing happening right now with people getting stuck with these exorbitant bills, people having to take out massive loans, that wouldn't be the case. Well, I spoke with Wendell Potter, basically a private healthcare whistleblower. Now he's the president of Business for Medicare for All. And I asked him about this because I want to know if it wasn't Trump in power, if it was Biden or Pete or Amy or pick your vice president for Biden, because whoever he picks as vice president is probably going to be the de facto president, judging by how Biden's brain is working right now. Would this protect Americans? Would this cover all their expenses in the case of if they get coronavirus or if they have to go to the hospital? Let's hear what Wendell Potter had to say. And keep those super chats coming. And please keep contributing to our GoFundMe, which we're bringing out of retirement today. 20% of all the donations we get today, 20% of all the donations we get today, we are sending to that charity I showed you to get more masks to hospitals in New York City in dire need. So please, 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 if you can, keep the support coming so we could help support our nurses, our doctors, because the federal government is clearly not supporting them. Here's my interview with Wendell Potter.
And we're at a time, this is not unique in history, but this may be the worst time in American history in which so many people are losing their jobs very, very quickly. Some economists are expecting were predicting that we could lose as many as 40 million jobs by the middle of April. That's just an astonishing number, and who knows if that will actually happen, but some serious economists are predicting that job losses will be that significant, and along with that will be so many people, millions of people who don't have health insurance.
And Joe Biden, during the debate, said this is an emergency, and you know, if it were me, you wouldn't have to pay for anything. I'm seeing online people tweeting out my Venmo for people to send money because my healthcare bills are out of control. GoFundMe's for healthcare. A lot of people going to the emergency room trying to get tested for COVID-19, but there are no tests. They're still getting stuck with the emergency room visit. So it seems to me, obviously he's not the president at this point, but this whole idea that this is an emergency so you won't have to pay for it, well, that's not in the bill that was just passed.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And you may recall that the President Trump said just 2 or 3 weeks ago that he had met with insurance company executives, and they had said that they would cover the cost of testing and treatment. And almost immediately, the big health insurance companies corrected him and said, no, we're not going to waive. In fact, he was just talking about waiving the co-insurance and deductibles for testing and treatment. But the insurance industry very quickly set the record straight and said they won't even waive deductibles and co-payments for treatment. It is ridiculous that our president and political candidates are where they are. And I can fully expect that we'll probably see the health insurance companies start begging for a bailout during the next bill that Congress considers. They already are asking for Congress to step in and help people pay their health insurance premiums when they are sitting on just piles and piles of cash.
And could you kind of talk about, in a better world, if we had Medicare for all before this broke out, what would that have done as far as preparedness, the availability of tests? What's the connection between, because Biden in the debate kind of put this notion out, well, Italy has universal health care and look how they're doing, which to me seemed nonsensical. It seems like...
It is nonsensical.
Yeah, can you kind of talk about that?
It is very nonsensical because in Italy, yes, they've had a large number of cases and deaths. We're obviously going to surpass that by an untold factor. But they, at least in Italy, the people who live there don't have to worry about the cost of testing and treatment like we do. The other thing is that in this country, we have invested so little over the years in public health. We are very unprepared for this. So much of the money that we spend, about a third of what we spend on healthcare every year, which is last year was $3.6 trillion, 30% to a third of what we spend go to administrative cost and overhead and profits, which is not common, not at all common. We're an anomaly in the developed world in which that's the case. And so consequently, you've got all that money going to pay executive salaries and reward shareholders, and we've been pinching pennies when it comes to public health. So that's one of the reasons why we are where we are. We're very unprepared for this because of how we have allowed our healthcare dollars to be diverted into shareholder and executive pockets.
And it seemed to me it was just quite the scene. A couple of weeks ago, Trump's in the Rose Garden. He's parading out, the CEO of Quest Diagnostics, CVS, I think Walgreens, like these companies are going to somehow save us. Doesn't that kind of say it all, that we're relying on private for-profit corporations to make the necessary tests, ventilators, provide the mask? Obviously, either they're not equipped to do that or price is a consideration for them.
Exactly. And most of these companies are owned by shareholders. Their stock is traded on the New York Stock Exchange, or they're owned by private equity firms. And the goal is to make money. I can assure you of that because I spent 20 years working inside the insurance business. And I was the person who handled financial communications for Cigna for more than 10 years. So I know what motivates these guys. Vice President Pence and the president and others have talked about the so-called public-private partnership. And executives talk about bringing devices and drugs and and everything like that to market. They use the terminology of Wall Street, bringing things to market. And we saw that Gilead, a big drug manufacturer, was planning and it was promising shareholders that they would really price what they're working on at a very, very expensive price. I think they've backed off on that. But that's exactly what you have. When the motivation is profit, you have this going on in this country.
Right. And let me ask you, because they're talking now, some analysis is saying healthcare rates could go up as much as 40% next year just
Right.
because of coronavirus. It seems to me if we could find estimates are different. That's okay.
So sorry about that.
No problem.
So sorry.
That's okay.
I share my office with my dog. Charlie.
No, the viewers will love it. If estimates are this bill that just was signed could estimate into $4 to $6 trillion. If they could come up with the money for that, isn't this whole excuse of how do we pay for Medicare for all just exposed as an excuse?
Oh, it absolutely is, and it exposes the language that so many of our candidates, Democratic candidates, were using over the course of several months on the campaign trail and on the debate stage. They were using the talking points that I used to create, getting Amy Klobuchar and Joe Biden and Pete Buttigieg in particular, saying that 150 million Americans like their insurance, they love their insurance, they don't want to risk losing it, they don't want to get it replaced with Medicare for all. When in every state that has held a caucus or a primary so far, entrance and exit polls have shown that the majority of those, in every state, including Tennessee, where I grew up, and South Carolina, red states, a majority of voters said they supported replacing private insurance companies with Medicare for all. So what you had, those candidates obviously knew that, but they were taking money from insurance companies through campaign contributions. They were listening to their lobbyists. They were using their talking points. So we've got a situation in this country in which the Democrats and Republicans are on the take from the big entrenched special interest, and now we're seeing what the consequences of that really is.
And what I find striking is who determines what an emergency is that categorizes as this will pay for. So Biden says during the debate, this is a pandemic, this is an emergency. You won't have to pay anything. Okay, but people rationing insulin, that's not an emergency. People with stage 4 breast cancer, why is it? Is it the company you used to work for, basically, is determining what is the emergency worth paying for?
Exactly right. We have put the insurance industry in control of our healthcare system. They are the gatekeepers to care. They will say they don't deny care, but they absolutely do. When they deny coverage for something, it's denial of care. These are death panels inside insurance companies. I can attest to that. And why should we not then say that people who have, as you said, diabetes, who need insulin, people who are suffering heart attacks, people who need expensive cancer medications and treatments, why in the world should we just make one exception now that we have a crisis? Maybe this sounds harsh, but let's not let this crisis go to waste. Let's make sure that the American public knows just how irrational our healthcare system is, how cruel it is, how inefficient it is, and how we shouldn't just say that just for one diagnosis that the government should cover all treatments, when at the same time we're going to continue to have as many people diagnosed with heart problems and cancer and diabetes. It just makes no sense whatsoever.
And as these unemployment claims skyrocket, we just had a historic unemployment claim. We're probably going to have repeated records as more people file unemployment. They're losing their health care too. So what are those people supposed to do? It's not like you could just
Right.
It's not like there's going to be a run on Medicaid and everybody's going to be granted Medicaid.
Right. Yeah, there are not really good options for a lot of people because obviously when you are laid off, your paycheck stops too. You may have a couple of weeks of severance, but in many cases I'm finding that people are not getting any money after their layoffs. And this will be people in the millions before this is all said and done. So yeah, it's crazy. And one of the other factors here is that because people have such, even if they have insurance, such big deductibles, such high out-of-pocket costs that they have to meet before the insurance company will pay a thin dime. You have people who are reticent. They're not likely to get tested or treated as they should because of the fear of the financial consequences. We're already seeing that. We're seeing that some people have gone to the hospital and have already gotten big bills from the hospitals for the ER visit that they had. So, word gets around. People are concerned, as they are in no other country, about how much it will cost for them to get tested and treated. And that is obviously going to be adding to the spread of coronavirus.
And let me ask you, let's say Biden were to become president, his plan, called expanded Obamacare with a public option. Would that change the current situation? Would a lot more people have coverage during a pandemic? Would bills get reimbursed for them if they get a bill from the emergency room for coronavirus? Because it seems to me, there's no price controls on the for-profit health insurance industry under Biden care. No,
that's exactly right. And details matter. He has thrown out this term public option, as some of the other candidates have too. What exactly does that mean? How would the public option be structured? How could it be put together in a way that people are not suffering the same problems, the same financial stress that they are with private insurance companies? One of the problems too, even if you were to create a public option and it's run by the government more efficiently and premiums are a bit lower, then you will have a rush of people, particularly people who have pre-existing conditions, into this public plan because they will see that it's somewhat less expensive. And the insurance companies will think, while they say they oppose this, they will rig the system. I can assure you this is what will happen, and it is why we are where we are right now, because they will say, well, we can cut rates for people by cherry picking those who we want to have in our business, our health plans, and that will happen without them actually having to do anything. The result will be that those who remain in private insurance plans, their rates might go down because those who are less healthy will be migrating to or enrolling in the public option. It will create, a lot of economists predict this, and I would imagine that it would be true, what's called a death spiral for the public option, in which so many people needing expensive care would be enrolled in the public option that you'd have to pour more and more tax dollars into the public option to keep it afloat.
And something that I don't think gets talked about a lot, but if you keep on these offering Band-Aids for a gunshot wound, well, legislatively, if Biden were president, okay, if he expands Obamacare, what happens when he loses both houses of Congress in the midterms, and then the Republicans start chipping away at it like they did Obamacare? So,
exactly.
The legislative body, that's why Kamala Harris's plan, if you want to call it that was like, it'll happen in 10 years, was so ridiculous, because you're basically giving the other party and the lobbyists and all this just the ability and the invitation to just chip away through the courts, through legislative means, to sabotage your already inadequate proposal.
You're exactly right, and it is why the sponsors of the bill in the House that would create a Medicare for all healthcare system, one of the reasons why they wrote it as they did, to have a transitional period of 2 years, was partly because of what you said, for the concern that the change of leadership, the change of control of Congress could change, and it often does, as we know, changes very, very often. So it's and also it can be done very quickly as well too. We had problems with Obamacare with the exchanges being set up and people enrolling in that, and the sites crashed so often. We wouldn't have that problem because with those you had multiple insurance companies, different ones in every state, different ones in every zip code, really, and all that had to be put in place. With Medicare for All, you have one system that's already been in place for 50 years, more than 50 years. And you could move people into a public plan that already exists much more readily.
And I know you haven't been in the private healthcare industry for many years, but take us inside those boardrooms right now. What are the conversations like? Blue Cross Blue Shield, Cigna, how are they going to try and capitalize on this? Because it always is disaster capitalism with these types of groups.
They're already smelling profits here, believe it or not. In fact, the CEOs of big insurance companies tell Wall Street financial analysts things they would not tell the general public. And we got a glimpse into that, and I knew it from, the 10 years that I spent handling financial communications for Cigna. Recently, we learned that the CEOs were telling analysts at Barclays Bank that they expected they might even have a net savings this year because of coronavirus. And their reasoning is that hospitals, and we're seeing this is happening, are already canceling a lot of procedures that are not life-threatening. So knee replacements, hip replacements, everything that is not life-threatening is being either postponed or canceled because hospitals are beginning to be flooded with coronavirus patients. And as long as they continue to have this posture of not waiving co-insurance and deductibles for treatment, they think they can come out smelling like roses. And if they do have an uptick in medical claims that they have to pay, one CEO, the CEO of Humana, said, well, we've got that figured out as well, too. We'll just increase premiums next year. And as you noted, we're already seeing the officials in California who run the California Obamacare exchange said they are expecting that premiums will go up 40% there. And that's one of the best managed exchange in the country. You can imagine what it's going to be like in other parts of the country. And if you think that that's going to be different if you have your coverage through your employer, you're fooling yourself, because they also jack up the premiums for people who have coverage through private plans through employers as well, too. So we'll see the same thing. There's no one who's going to be escaping this who has private health insurance without paying additional premiums. And more than likely, every year they've been increasing the deductibles as well, too. So it's going to get worse, and the insurance companies are going to get richer, and their shareholders are going to get richer.
United Corporations of America, as always.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wendell, President of Business for Medicare for All. We'll stay in touch.
Thank you, Jordan.
Okay. Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.
Status Coup.
That was Wendell Potter. He is the president of Business for Medicare for All. He is essentially one of the best, I guess, whistleblowers out there from a point of view of having worked for the for-profit hyenas in the for-profit healthcare industry. And unfortunately, that kind of information that he's providing, we are not going to hear on CNN, MSNBC, in the pages of the New York Times, the Washington Post. Frankly, I think we need to hear more of that coming from Bernie Sanders right now. Which we're going to get into Bernie and what he could be doing right now. Now, we're going to get into that now. So keep it coming in the super chat. We are asking you to contribute to our GoFundMe today. We have met our goal a couple months ago, but we kept it open. So thank you. We're trying to raise money in our GoFundMe, not just for Status Coup. We are losing members because people are getting laid off and having to cancel their memberships. But we also want to send 20% of the donations we're getting today to this New York City charity that is providing masks to hospitals. They've raised $430,000 so far. We'd like to contribute, so we are going to take 20% of your donations today, whether you make those donations in our GoFundMe or Super Chat. We're taking 20% of those donations and sending it for masks because the federal government is not providing enough masks to doctors and nurses. So keep it coming in the super chat. Let me read a couple super chats before I move on. Thank you, Darren Aleve, £5. Sadly, Bernie won't take the opportunity. He always wants to be liked by corrupt Democrats Schumer and Pelosi more than destroying them. I'll get into that in a few minutes. Thanks for the £5. Brandon, $20. Grow gardens, not lawns. Food and weed will be the new currency. Wouldn't that be lovely? I would love weed as a currency. Carol Edwards, $50, as always, with your generosity. Thank you so much, Carol. Biden care? I can't even. Oh, my Lord. I'm just telling you, that's what he called it. Yes, Biden care. Thank you for the $50, as always. Grammy, Bernie Bro, $20. COVID-19 has completely exposed the myth of American exceptionalism as a lie. My Democratic ABQ, Albuquerque mayor, congressman, and Democratic New Mexico governor, senators are failing to protect us. We are led by the least amongst us. Thank you for reporting, Jordan. Thank you for the super chat. Margie, $20. Thank you. Jordan Vasquez, $5. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Mr. Methuselah, $20. Hold on to your whips and chains. Climate change will bring even worse pandemic. Unfortunately, you're right. Betavirus, $2. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Isaac Bazan, 1999. My 50-year-old parents voted Bernie, but now they're very ready to vote for Biden. They're stuck in the CNN bubble. They dismissed Biden's sex scandal as fake news and as someone Trump paid. MSM is successfully crafting the narrative. I'm going to get into that a little bit later, too. Cheryl Tyler, $20. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Kathy Lloyd, $50. Thank you. And Siri O'Reilly, $5. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Keep it coming. Keep it coming if you got a couple bucks. Jim Giddings, $20. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Did I miss any? I think I'm caught up. So, Wendell just showed you. And to me, I can't stand these people saying, Jordan, now's not the time for politics. Now is the exact time for politics. Forget the campaign for a second. Politics is why those health insurance companies are essentially acting like the hyenas from Lion King. The hyenas are running our government. The hyenas from Lion King are running our government. If we had political leaders that were not bought off, as quickly as they just put in $6 trillion for corporations, is as quickly as they would say, we are putting a freeze on all deductibles, co-insurance, and co-payments for anything COVID-19 related, as well as patients that went into the hospital thinking they had COVID-19, but were declared did not have it. Anyone that is going to a doctor, a hospital, a community health center, whatever, that is being treated for COVID or thinks they have coronavirus but can't get a test or whatever, for-profit healthcare companies are going to have to take it on the chin, just like you, the American taxpayer, has been taking it on the chin for the last 40 years. They are not to profit. Donald Trump could do that right now. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer could be calling for that right now. They're not because they're funded. Not just, I think what people don't understand is it's not just that they're funded directly from pharmaceutical executives and hospital executives and healthcare executives. That's not even the most direct line to the corruption. It's the same thing as why they are doing so little to face climate change. The biggest source of the corruption is not the pharmaceutical executives who are funding Trump. It's not the hospital executives that are funding Trump or the Democratic Party. It's Wall Street. Wall Street banks are the biggest investors in these pharmaceutical companies, in the for-profit healthcare industry. So the Democratic Party, Trump, the Republicans, do not want to bite the Wall Street hand that feeds them. That is the truth. And by the way, I don't want to miss our fantastic GoFundMe donations coming in too. Thank you, Lawrence, $20 in the GoFundMe. Thank you, Logan, $5. Anonymous, $20. Bertram, $5. Russ Williams, that's from 2 days ago. So today, Bertram, Anonymous, Logan, Lawrence, thank you, thank you, thank you. And no, we're just bringing our GoFundMe out of retirement today. We already reached our goal, but we want to raise more money today, and we're going to send 20% of it to provide more masks for New York City nurses and doctors. So Basically, as Wendell showed you, as I've shown you, right now is a massive opportunity, if you are progressive, to basically reach not just your own base, not just Bernie bros and gals, but those neoliberal voters that have been eating that steady diet of CNN, of MSNBC, of the New York Times, of the Washington Post. Those people too are getting coronavirus. Those people too are in the hospital. Those people too are going to get hit with massive emergency room bills. Those people too are getting laid off from their jobs and now having to take out loans. Those people too, even in states that have voted for Joe Biden, that have people who have voted for Joe Biden, they are starting to see, oh, this whole like eat your broccoli and slow, steady diet of incrementalism, maybe that's not a good thing. Why is it that I'm having to take out a loan right now? Why is it that I don't have any paid sick leave? Why is it that I might have to refinance my mortgage? I mean, the why is it's could go on and on and on. Why is it that we only got $1,200 when my rent is $1,500 or my mortgage is more than that? Why is it that I'm applying for unemployment like they told me to and I'm not even getting through? Why is it that I'm applying for unemployment and they're telling me it's not going to be effective for another month? I need it right now. Why is it? Why is it? Why is it? Bernie Sanders, we don't have the time or resources to do this, but if we were to go back into the entire campaign and Bernie Sanders over the last 5 years, how many times did he start out a sentence with, why is it? So I think Bernie Sanders, frankly, I'm not going to bullshit you. I think it's very unlikely he's going to win the nomination. I think it's very unlikely. But I think Bernie Sanders has a massive opportunity right now to pick door number one or door number two. And let me tell you what those two doors are. Okay? Door number one is to continue doing what he's doing, which frankly, I don't really know what he's doing right now. And by the way, I'm not criticizing Bernie Sanders. Frankly, I've started to see even people I love, my friend Jimmy and some others, all of a sudden they're turning on Bernie. Bernie sold us out. Bernie, is a sellout and weak and this, that, and the other thing. I'm not going that route. I think that's absurd. Okay? Maybe Bernie, it's very easy as a YouTube host or a Twitter asshole to Monday morning quarterback Bernie Sanders or anyone else, right? I've been clear on what I think Bernie's weaknesses are. I've been clear to criticize Bernie where I think he needs to be criticized. But frankly, Bernie Sanders, just himself, has done more than all the YouTube hosts, all the Twitterers, all the people calling him weak and a sellout and this and that will ever dream to do in their lives. Okay? It's easy to call someone a sellout because they're not going as far as you would like them to go. But frankly, that person you're calling a sellout is largely responsible for every state in this country, every state in this country that has voted is for Medicare for all right now. And you don't get massive legislation passed overnight, but it begins with changing public sentiment. Okay? So my problem with Bernie Sanders, and some people don't even like me critiquing him at all. Thank you, Nancy, $4.99 in the super chat. Love you, Jordan and Jen. Still a member, still working, although reduced hours. San Francisco essential business, no health insurance, and 64 years old. Thank you so much. Thank you for being a member in these trying times. Thank you. So Bernie Sanders could pick door number one, which is to do what he's been doing. And what he's been doing is leading. He has been doing great stuff on coronavirus. I think he's been doing like 3 or 4 live streams a week. I think he's been, his Senate floor speech railing against Lindsey Graham and these other jerk-offs who were spewing that Republican nonsense about, we're giving too high of unemployment. People will want to just stay home. But what he's not doing is actively running a presidential campaign. And to me, I say shit or get off the pot. and some of you don't like it, but this is not me bashing Bernie. I don't think Bernie's a sellout. I think people who say that are fucking stupid, to tell you the truth. And they should go try. If they think it's so easy to, get the Democratic Party to do what you want, you go run for office if you think Bernie's a sellout. But I don't understand, if he's choosing to stay in the race, then compete. Because Joe Biden is giving you opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to show the 50% of states that have not yet voted. Again, I think it's highly unlikely Bernie is going to be the nominee. I'm just being honest. But there are 50% of the states that have not voted. And Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden is literally handing to you on a silver platter. He has no policies. He has no solutions for coronavirus other than to criticize Donald Trump, who, by the way, I'm about to show you, Donald Trump, even though his response to coronavirus has been disastrous, frankly, on par with George W. Bush's horrendous response to Hurricane Katrina. Donald Trump ignored the experts in January telling him to take this seriously. Donald Trump allowed massive cuts to the pandemic office that Obama created. Donald Trump has basically been choosing not to provide enough aid to states and governors that don't suck them off enough. He's saying, the governor of Michigan, no, don't call her. She's not being so nice. Don't give her what she needs. If you had a competent Democratic frontrunner, they would be excoriating Donald Trump right now, and his numbers would be going starkly down. Seth Peterson, $35 in the Go Super Chat. Thank you for all you do, your hard work over the last couple of years. Your reporting has been much needed and continues to be against MSM, who have failed at their jobs. We appreciate everything you do at Status Coup. I appreciate you, Seth. Your generosity is incredible and really helps us keep going. So, Bernie Sanders, I think some of you who say he's selling out, to me, a lot of people think he's selling out because he didn't vote against the bailout bill. I think he should have voted against the bailout bill, first of all. I said that. But you think he's selling out because he's not going hard enough against Chuck Schumer. He's not going hard enough against Nancy Pelosi. I actually agree with that, but I don't think that's selling out. I think that's his fundamental, frankly, weakness as a candidate. I don't think that means you're a sellout. I think that's his weakness as a politician. Bernie Sanders is a revolutionary figure stuck in a Washington, D.C. politician's body. That's been the problem. And right now, I think he's choosing not to go against Joe Biden. He's choosing not to, basically, he should be going after Joe Biden every day. Hey, Joe, what is your Obamacare expansion with public option? How would that protect people right now as the coronavirus pandemic spreads all over the country? Hey, Joe, you ready to put forward paid sick leave for every American? We're seeing we don't have it right now. You going to do that as president? Of course he's not. Hey, Joe, why is it that right now people that are getting laid off are literally having to use GoFundMes and Venmos to pay medical bills? Are you going to put in place? How is your public option going to stop that? When all studies show a public option is not going to provide universal health care. The bottom line is there is an endless sea of opportunity and messaging right now that Bernie Sanders could be doing against Joe Biden. And Bernie Sanders, he doesn't need to speak in vague terms because literally every single day, all his campaign would have to do is take off of Twitter people sending out GoFundMes to pay their rent. People sending out, hey, here's my Venmo. I'm having to take out a loan while I just showed you. Let me find this one. This one really got at me. My husband has been in the hospital since February 3rd with pneumonia, but he had all the symptoms of virus but not tested. Now with everything going on, I'm trying to find a job because he was our sole income and we have 4 kids. Please help. Venmo. Here's the husband. How about this one? Where's the one I wanted to find? My mom is sick. We've made many visits to the ER. She's a hairstylist and won't be able to work for God knows how long. That and the hospital bills. She's already had to take out loans to pay for rent. I'm in college, also out of a job at the moment. Hey, Joe, how's your expanded Obamacare with the public option? Is that going to mean she doesn't, her sick mom in the hospital with coronavirus is not going to have to take out loans? Who's going to pay her hospital bills, Joe? And hey, Joe, you keep talking about how we're going to pay for it. How are the people going to pay for this? You keep talking about how is the government going to pay for universal health care? How are our citizens going to pay for this virus that they didn't ask for? They're not the ones that caused the coronavirus. How are the citizens with stage 4 breast cancer, how are they going to pay for that? How are the citizens with diabetes going to pay for their insulin when insulin is being price gouged? Nobody asks. How are the citizens going to pay for that? The messaging opportunities, if you're Bernie Sanders, listen, whether you as Bernie Sanders have ultimately in your mind said, I'm not going to win, at this point, it's not just about winning the nomination. You're probably not going to win. But you have the opportunity, because when you're officially dropped out, you're not going to get the same amount of media attention when you're officially dropped out. As a candidate, you have an opportunity to change minds. And you don't have to change the minds of the people who already support you because they're already with you on these things. You have the opportunity to change minds of neoliberals that have been fed a steady diet. Well, we got to go with Joe Biden. And by the way, Bernie, and I'm sorry if some of you don't like it, I'm not calling him a sellout. I think that's absurd. It is absurd. And I love Jimmy. I don't know if Jimmy per se called him a sellout, but I love Jimmy. There's others on Twitter I happen to like, but those calling him a sellout and a fraud and all this stuff, get the fuck out of here. Were you saying that when he won Iowa, New Hampshire, Nevada, and was the Democratic frontrunner on 60 Minutes that week? Was he a sellout then? You were with him in good times. Now he's a sellout? Come on. So what I'm saying is Bernie's gotta, shit or get on the pot. Because our revolution, for example, is messaging against Joe Biden. COVID-19 is impacting every aspect of our healthcare system. Despite this, Joe Biden is now saying he refuses to debate Bernie Sanders on these important issues. Look, we are going through a national crisis and we deserve leaders who are willing to engage. Hiding out in Delaware isn't going to cut it, Joe. Lives are on the line and the American people deserve a debate. I agree. But why is it our revolution is saying this? Why is Bernie Sanders not saying it? Hey, Bernie, I got news for you. Whether you start swinging against Joe Biden and calling him out, or whether you don't, the media is going to attack you either way. I don't know if this is why he's not, but this notion that I don't want to go at him because the media will say I'm, politicizing this, who the hell cares? Who cares? And by the way, I want to thank, we're getting more GoFundMe donations in. Thank you, Seth Peterson, $30. Thank you, Abel, $5. Lawrence Johnson, $20. Keep it coming in the GoFundMe. For those of you that came late, we're bringing our GoFundMe out of retirement today so we could raise money, not just for Status Coup, but we want to send 20% of the money that we raised today to this charity that is sending masks to the nurses and the doctors that desperately, desperately need it right now in New York City. So keep dropping it in the GoFundMe if you can, or the Super Chat. So to me, I just don't get it. I really don't get it. And let me play you an interview Bernie did, which again is kind of just a lot of mixed messaging. Here we go.
Support for NPR and the following message come from National Geographic Student Expeditions, offering summer trips for middle and high school students, featuring Nat Geo experts and themes that include conservation, photography, and community service. natgeo.com/student.
Earlier this month, Senator
leave half sentiment in this country.
Is there anything about this moment that makes you think that perhaps Congress and the country might be more open to the kind of big government programs that you have pushed for a long time?
The answer is yes. I think there is growing sentiment in this country that people now understand that it is incomprehensible that we remain the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all, that we have an economy which leaves half of our people living paycheck to paycheck, 40 million people living in poverty, while we have more income and wealth inequality than any other major country on earth. And I think what this terrible moment of an unprecedented pandemic, the worst in 100 years, I think in this moment, I think people are beginning to rethink the nature of American society and the role that government plays in our lives.
And do you think that's a good thing?
Absolutely. I think the facts are clear. How does it happen that we are spending twice as much per person on health care, and you have doctors and nurses today, at this moment, who are putting their lives on the line because they don't even have masks or gloves or gowns to protect them? What kind of system is it where people today are dying knowing they're sick, but they're not going to the hospital because they can't afford the bill that they'll be picking up?
I want to ask you about the present day, though. 3.3 million people filed for unemployment last week. How long do you think it's going to take to recover from this? And what do you think it's going to take?
I have very little doubt that there'll be another massive stimulus package within the next month. I think given the nature of this crisis, what the Congress did yesterday is a step forward. I would have gone a lot further. I'm disappointed that we put $500 billion into corporate welfare without any accountability or the kind of transparency that we need. But I think given the nature of the healthcare crisis and the economic crisis, Congress will be back once again for a major, major stimulus package.
You are continuing your campaign for the presidency, yes?
We are assessing the situation we're in. It's changing every day because elections are being delayed. We don't hold rallies, obviously. We don't do door-to-door campaigning, which hundreds of thousands of volunteers had been doing. We're doing a virtual campaign, if you like. But right now we're focusing on the healthcare and economic crisis facing the country.
Okay, that's interesting. I did expect you to just say yes. When you say you're assessing, what does that, may I ask you what that means?
Sure. I mean, this is something new. This is what I've said. Look, we have some folks out there in our campaign, grassroots campaign, who say, Bernie, you should go on and keep the fight going for the ideas that we believe in, that are gaining resonance. One of the things that has happened in this campaign is that our ideas are the dominant ideology of the Democratic Party right now, and I'm proud of that.
I wonder at this moment in time, whether or not you're the nominee, do you see the general election being about anything other than the coronavirus? I understand it is still March, late March. We've got a couple months. But right now, it feels like this thing is all-consuming. Is there some concern that we get to November and people are so focused on this virus that we stop thinking about some of the other things you've brought up?
Yeah, well, I think you raise a very good point. If you just lost your job and 3.3 million people filed for unemployment insurance in 1 week, you know what you're worried about? You're worried about how you're going to feed your family and pay your rent. So obviously that is what the country is consumed about. But what I would hope is that we broaden that discussion to not only address how we deal with these crises, and let's be clear, the Trump administration in terms of this coronavirus has been so irresponsible. But even above and beyond all of that, we need some space to be thinking about how we got here and where we want to go. And I think the American people are prepared to do that.
Senator Bernie Sanders, thank you so much for...
So that was Bernard Sanders. But again, I ask, shit or get off the pot? I love you, Bernie. But what are you assessing? What is there to assess? I totally get it. Okay? You got Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, all of them howling at the moon, Bernie. Stay out of it. Don't go hard after Joe. It's over. Gracefully exit. There's a lot of pressure on Bernie Sanders. But with all due respect, you are 70, 78? This is your last hurrah. Who the hell cares what Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Joe Biden, Tom Perez, and the very vultures of the Democratic Party, who cares what they want? Who cares how you're going to be depicted in CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, the Washington Post? Who cares? Now is the time to show. Now is the time to show the massive holes that the capitalist system has created and the Democratic Party has enabled and the Republican Party cherishes so much. And now is the time to challenge Joe Biden. Now is the time to challenge Joe Biden. Whether you're going to win or not, Joe Biden needs to answer the questions. What would you as president do for these people that are having to take out loans right now? For these people that their small businesses might go out? For people who are getting hit with $1,000 bills, thousands of dollars of bills because of emergency room stays, for ventilators, for anesthesia? What would Biden care do for those people? And why is it that our country is relying on CEOs and corporations at Quest Diagnostics, General Motors, to be making ventilators and masks instead of our government and a Medicare for All program? Thank you, Jason, $7. Status Coup, Jordan, you notice that the MSM is trying to prop up Cuomo. Where is Biden? He's been hiding, giving no answers, just thoughts and prayers. Hey, listen, I'm in New York. I've been watching Cuomo's press conferences every day. Let's be clear. Andrew Cuomo is about as corrupt as they come. They are better than Donald Trump's press conferences. The media is not mentioning that while Andrew Cuomo sits up there waxing poetic about the good old days when, him and his family were eating sausage and meatballs and all this at Italian dinner, that's what he was doing today. He's also trying to cut $400 million from New York's Medicaid fund. So this is the problem with neoliberalism. Sounds good, but they're shanking you behind the scenes as they talk very nicely. Jordan, does anyone in Bernie's campaign watch Status Coup? I would hope. Chuck King, $20 in the super chat. Thank you. And the reason why I'm saying all this, and I'm seeing it, I see some people, I'm signing off, I can't stomach any critical talk on Bernie, then go sign off. I don't care. I'm not calling him a sellout. I think that's absurd. I am a Bernie guy till I die, personally. But that doesn't mean there's not room for constructive criticism. But as Bernie chooses not to go after Joe Biden, Biden is losing the general election in real time. New ABC Washington Post poll out today. Biden's lead over Trump has narrowed from 52 to 45 to 49 to 47. Biden is currently leading Trump nationally by the margin of error, 2 points. But what I think is even scarier about those numbers, okay? Forget the number for a second. That will change. Polls later on might show Biden leading by more. The number is not as important as the enthusiasm gap. Strong enthusiasm for Biden among his supporters at just 24% is the lowest on record for a Democratic presidential candidate in 20 years. Let me repeat. Anat, my beautiful woman, yes. Are you listening? Yes. Is your father listening? I don't know. Strong enthusiasm for Biden among his supporters at just 24% is the lowest on record for a Democratic presidential candidate in 20 years. Why is that so important? And let me explain what that means. As I give a holla for our wonderful super chatters. Carl Knight, $20. I've heard some chatter that Andrew Cuomo may be the Democratic nominee because of his leadership on combating coronavirus. What are your thoughts on his leadership and whether or not he'll become the nominee? Let me get to that later. I'm kind of in a flow. Remind me later and I'll talk about Cuomo. Elizabeth Quiroga, 1999. Bernie's campaign has given colleges, university students for Bernie clubs across the country the tools to create pressure campaigns against our schools to give us refunds and protect faculty during this time. I think that's a great idea. Carl, I'm not blowing you off. Ask me that again later. I just want to get through this. So what that 24% enthusiasm means and I could tell you from my what I experienced in 2016, enthusiasm is yard signs, right? Enthusiasm is yard signs. Enthusiasm is signs on businesses. Enthusiasm is you go in an area of a city or a state, and there's energy for a candidate everywhere. You can't escape it. There was a lot of that for Donald Trump in the Midwest in 2016. You could not escape Donald Trump signs all over Michigan, all over Pennsylvania, all over Wisconsin, all over Ohio. Hillary, not so much. In California, Hillary was everywhere. Hillary signs this and that. But you know why enthusiasm matters? And let me get this again. Because enthusiasm, 24% enthusiasm, you know what that translates? A lot of that translates to a lot of soft support. Soft support means those people that are supporting Biden right now, because they're not enthusiastic, because he's not inspiring them, because frankly, as they watch him, even they can see, Jesus, this guy's struggling just at basic articulation. No, it's not a stutter. He was talking just fine as vice president in 2010. He was talking just fine in 2018 when he went around the country for candidates running in the midterms and spoke on their behalf. He wasn't stuttering then. He's having trouble articulating thoughts. He's losing his train of thought. So 24% enthusiasm for the Democratic nominee. To me, that indicates two things. One, these people still could cross over to Trump. Not all of them, but a healthy number. Or they're just going to stay home. That's what low enthusiasm is. It is soft support. The other number in here, the 15% of Bernie supporters backing Trump over Biden, I have a lot of thoughts on that. Of course, by the way, this is neoliberalism. This is Neera Tanden. This is the Democratic Party. They're, of course, going to blame Bernie Sanders and the progressives that there's only 24% support for Joe Biden. Because it's never the candidate's responsibility to inspire people. It's never the candidate's responsibility to, convince people to vote for him or her. It's not the candidate. It's all on Bernie. But the fact that 15% of Bernie supporters back Trump over Biden, first of all, you will never, ever hear me advocate voting for Donald Trump. I don't even care if strategically you could make the argument, because I've seen some people make the argument. Maybe if we vote for Trump, that will burn down the DNC once and for all. I, as a progressive and good conscience, I'm not voting for Donald Trump. He's a racist, he's a wannabe fascist, and he's the opposite of everything progressive. So I'm not voting for Donald Trump. But the fact that 15% of Bernie Sanders supporters say that they are for Donald Trump says a few things. Number one, as I've been saying for a long time, Bernie Sanders has a lot of independent voters that support him. Bernie Sanders also has not a huge number, but Bernie Sanders does have some Republicans that have crossed over to Bernie Sanders. But Bernie Sanders has always been very strong among independent voters. So this 15% is not just Democratic Bernie Sanders supporters. Encompassed in that 15% is independent voters, is some Republican voters. And I got news for you. A huge number of that 15% of Bernie supporters backing Trump, it's not because they like Trump. It's because they're tired of the empty crumbs offered by the Democratic Party. And they can't bring themselves to vote for the Democratic Party. It's not because they love Trump. Just, by the way, the same goes on the other way. You know how many people I met in 2016 and interviewed that were not fans of Donald Trump whatsoever. Did not like Donald Trump. But they voted for him as a protest of Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party. That's what that 15% is, in large part. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying Bernie people should be voting for Trump. I'm not gonna. But that's what that is. So Joe Biden, Tom Perez, the DNC, they could do the usual thing that they do and that's voter shame, they could say, these people are political terrorists. Don't they know what's at stake? They're going to reelect Donald Trump. No. And thank you, Joe Biden, for the $15 GoFundMe donation. I assume that's not the Joe Biden, but we'll take it anyway. We'll send it to Big Pharma for you. And Julie for the $20. Thank you. Keep GoFundMeing, keep super chats. But the bottom line is, Bernie Sanders does not owe. Bernie Sanders voters do not owe the Democratic Party anything. And they don't owe you their vote for Joe Biden. Joe Biden is going to have to convince progressives that he is different and that he's going to do something for progressives. And if he's not going to convince them, then you get what you get. If you want to keep pushing forward as policy, restore the soul of the nation, if you want to run a campaign without any actual policies, but just we need to restore the soul of the country, if you want to continue running a campaign offering Band-Aids to a gunshot wound, a public option, expanded Obamacare, public college that's free for anyone making under $125,000, but do you really, down in your gut, think Joe Biden's going to fight for that if he's elected president? Tanya, €5. Thank you in the super chat. And, proof's in the pudding here. Joe Biden's campaign right now, this is from Politico, desperately trying to court progressives. If you have to court progressives, that should tell you something. Joe Biden's campaign is mounting an aggressive behind-the-scenes effort to address the biggest weaknesses of his candidacy, a lack of enthusiasm among the liberal base, particularly younger voters. Since his landslide victories earlier this month, Biden's advisors have engaged in talks with a range of top progressive groups, including some that endorsed his chief rival, Bernie Sanders, the outreach to left-wing organizations and individuals representing causes from climate change and immigrants' rights to gun control and mobilizing undeserved black and brown communities is focused on young activists. Broadly speaking, they viewed Biden as one of the least inspiring candidates in the sprawling Democratic primary field. It's a delicate dance for both sides. For one, Sanders is still in the race. Plus, the progressives recognize that their time and leverage to influence Biden is limited since he's all but wrapped up the nomination. Still, Biden needs to fix his enthusiasm deficit, which was partly masked by his wins this month, and it's far from certain that antipathy towards President Donald Trump alone will do the job. The dirty little secret is everyone's talking to Biden's campaign, said Sean McElway, co-founder of the liberal think tank Data for Progress. There will be fights, but at the end of the day, progressives still hold votes in the Senate, and increasingly Democratic voters stand behind our views. I expect we'll see Biden embracing key planks of the ambitious agenda progressives have outlined on issues like climate change and pharmaceutical policy. So, and by the way, I just want to give you guys an update as we try to raise money, not just for Status Coup, but so that we could contribute 20% of our funds today to charities in New York City trying to get more masks. We have raised so far $574 today between Super Chats and GoFundMe. We have raised $574 so far between Super Chats and GoFundMe, so 20% of that is $115. I would like to send a lot more than $115 to go towards masks. So if what do we got right now? 900 people watching? Of course, a lot of people can't donate. You're getting laid off. You're facing a terrible economic picture right now. If you can't donate, we get it. But for those who can, whether it's in the Super Chat or our GoFundMe, Status Coup needs to raise a lot of money because, frankly, as I'm live, we are literally getting, I've already seen 6 or 7 emails. Cancel my membership, I'm broke, I'm losing my job, blah, 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 which we, of course, respect. Our membership numbers, unfortunately, as they went significantly up on the campaign trail, they're now going down because of the economic reality that people are losing their jobs and they can't even afford the $5 a month membership. So we totally get it for those that can stay members, pretty please, stay a member. But Status Coup needs to raise more through GoFundMe to help us stay afloat as we lose members. But we also, as a progressive outlet, want to be helpful. So we would love to get as much money as possible to this mask fundraiser. So whatever you got, whether it's $5, $10, whatever you got, please, please, please contribute. So what's amazing to me about this Joe Biden courting progressives, and by the way, this poll that I just showed you, Biden's lead only being two points over Trump nationally, the fact that he has only a 24% excitement, enthusiasm. Keep in mind, if this were the actual popular vote result today, Trump would likely win the Electoral College. That's from Dave Wasserman with Redistrict that does polling. Again, if these were the numbers today, Biden wins the national popular vote, Trump wins the Electoral College. Dave Weigel pointed out something from the Washington Post. Look at the real clear politics average of Democrats versus Trump right now. Biden 5.8, so Biden up 6, Bernie up 6, or close to 6. 4 years ago, Clinton up 11 over Trump at this time. Bernie was up 17, but of course they ignored that Bernie was the better candidate. So right now, for both Biden and Bernie, at this point, they're both down significantly compared to the pace of Hillary and Bernie. Well, Hillary lost, even though she was up by that much. So Weigel makes the point, among other things, gets at why many Dems were comfortable with a long 2016 primary. Seemed obvious to them that Trump couldn't win until he did. Well, frankly, I think a lot of Democrats looking at this right now, how comfortable are they with Joe Biden being the nominee? And to be fair, I want to be fair, Biden is doing better against Trump right now by a small amount than Bernie. So right now, even if Bernie was in Biden's position, right? If Bernie was up 300 delegates, it's not a slam dunk for Bernie either. Bernie has always said Trump is not going to be easy to defeat. So it's not a slam dunk that Bernie would win. But I got news for you. If Bernie was up by 300 delegates right now, his enthusiasm numbers would not be at 24%. His enthusiasm numbers would be in the 60s to 70s. And if Bernie was the nominee, you better believe he would be head-to-head leading Trump by more than that. But Democratic Party, close your eyes, count to 10, hope for the best. I think Jeremy Scahill put it really well. This is a code red situation. If Democrats run Biden, Trump is going to be president for 4 more years. No amount of yelling about how much you hate Bernie Sanders or celebrating primary victories is going to change that. People who want Trump gone need to change direction fast. And what I think is so remarkable here, and it just shows the emptiness of the Democratic Party's argument. This is James Clyburn in a Wall Street Journal article. This is him quoted, saying, Mr. Biden should incorporate as much of the efforts being proposed by Bernie Sanders as he can. Well, if Mr. Biden needs to court the progressives as much as he needs to court the progressives, Politico just reported that. If Mr. Biden is being told by Mr. Clyburn, who, by the way, sorry, I know this isn't PC to say, is fucking corrupt, James Clyburn. If you have to basically, for 6 months, pretend that you're for progressive policies and just for 6 months prostitute yourself politically and say, Bernie, great, I'll do everything Bernie says. Why don't we just go with Bernie then? If the nominee that is up by 300 delegates right now, well, he's not the nominee officially, but you know the point. If all his people are saying, yeah, just copy Bernie Sanders because he's got a 24% enthusiasm among voters that say they're going to vote for him, then why is it we don't just go for Bernie Sanders? To repeat, over 50% of the states have not voted. The majority of the states have postponed their primaries to May and June. New York State, which is among all the states left, has the most delegates at stake, 300-something delegates, postponed their primary from end of April to June. This is why I say Bernie Sanders has a massive opportunity. I don't want to lie to my viewers. I don't think it's going to be easy. I don't think he's going to win the nomination, but he's got massive opportunities to point out right now. I've been saying it all along. You need energy and enthusiasm to win against Donald Trump. Joe Biden's got 24% enthusiasm. Joe Biden can't get, and frankly, I do not know. I understand Bernie is like a diplomatic guy and he comes from the school of thought of Washington and be diplomatic and Washington, the code of ethics and let's start every sentence with my friend over here. I mean, Bernie, if your number one priority is to get rid of Donald Trump, if you want to get rid of Donald Trump, Bernie, you're not stupid. You could tell that something is not right with Joe Biden. This brain, it's not computing correctly. So I don't understand why Bernie Sanders isn't pointing out. He doesn't need to mention medical terms. He doesn't need to say there's something wrong with Joe Biden. But I don't understand why Bernie Sanders isn't just saying, why isn't Joe Biden speaking every single day? Why isn't Joe Biden doing live streams like I'm doing? Talking to medical experts, talking to the voters. Why isn't Joe Biden doing national television interviews every day? Is everything okay with Joe Biden? Why is he not asking these questions? Why is he not going at? If you're going to lose, go down swinging. And I don't see that from Bernie Sanders right now. I just don't. Apparently, I'll just read this from NBC. Bernie's making it incredibly clear that his presidential bid is far from over, even if he faces long odds of winning the nomination. While some former top advisors acknowledge the difficulty Sanders has in overcoming Biden's significant delegate lead, other allies of the Vermont senator note that his message and his agenda are well suited to a moment when millions of people are filing for unemployment, losing their health care, while large corporations seek billions in bailout funds. James Zogby, a DNC member who is on the board of Our Revolution, said in an interview that he saw no reason for Sanders to give up his national platform now. Quote, we don't know what will befall us. I mean, who knew 2 months ago that we'd be where we are with the virus? Who knows what will be 2 months from now? Who knows what Bernie does, what Biden does, what else happens that will change the dynamics? So it'd be irresponsible to leave the race, as some have suggested. Zogby said Sanders should not exit the race unless Biden becomes the presumptive nominee, which he could do by hitting the necessary threshold of 1,991 pledged delegates. Quote, but even then, don't forget, Bernie's not just a candidate. He has every reason to stay in, pointing to the Sanders atop the progressive movement. Longtime Sanders ally Larry Cohen, who chairs the board of the Progressive Political Action Organization, Our Revolution, echoed Zogby, saying he expected Sanders would stay in the race. Quote, my sense is, and this is my belief, he will keep running. So, my point is, if you're going to stay in the race, are you just staying in the race to do live streams and help raise awareness? And, they're fundraising right now, Bernie's campaign, and sending that money to charities. I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. But if you're in the race, are you going to compete? Are you going to continue to compete against Joe Biden, or are you not? Because, I don't know how else to say it. You have a major opening right now. Again, President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden are in a tightly competitive race for the White House in November general election, with the president gaining ground on his likely challenger over the last month. Trump has moved from what was a 7-point deficit in February to a near tie with Biden today. Among registered voters, Biden is favored by 49% and Trump by 47%. When the poll measures preference among all adults, Biden stands at 50, Trump at 44. Trump is more trusted to handle the economy, while Biden is more trusted to deal with health care. When voters are asked whom they trust more to confront the coronavirus outbreak, the difference between the two is statistically insignificant. I mean, a Democratic frontrunner with a pulse who's cognitively all there should be demolishing this idiot right now. But it's dangerously close. Dangerously close. Yet, I don't think I've heard one critique from Bernie Sanders against Joe Biden since that debate. So this is where I do honestly fault Bernie Sanders. And thank you for the GoFundMe. Ada, $15. 9 people have donated so far. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. We're almost at $91,000 for Status Quo's GoFundMe. Unbelievable. That would be $123 away. Or no, $127 away from $91,000 in the GoFundMe. That is unbelievable. Thank you to everybody who keeps contributing today. So, and I think I'm not one to usually toss to Jake Tapper for common sense, but what he said a few weeks ago, I think Bernie should listen to this.
Maybe they don't necessarily always know what they're doing. McKinnon, former George W. Bush advisor, told me that actually they feared Howard Dean more because Howard Dean, even though he was less predictable, there was a starker difference between Howard Dean and George W. Bush, and he was drawing much bigger crowds than John Kerry was able to. And Howard Dean, we had him on the Sunday show, and Howard Dean said, "Now you tell me." But the point is that when you have the Democratic electorate deciding that they are all a bunch of Rachel Maddows and Chris Hayes and the like, that they're just progressive pundits, and they're going to pick out who is the best one. Maybe they don't necessarily always know what they're doing.
Yeah. So first of all,
maybe they don't always know what they're doing. That should be the new slogan for the Democratic Party. That should be the new slogan for the Democratic Party. Maybe they don't always know what they're doing. Couldn't have said it better myself, Jake. I mean, you suck most of the time, but at least on that, you got it right. Thank you, Andrew Carlson, $10. Status Coup in the field reporting is an essential service. Keep them afloat so they can keep giving U.S. The microphone once this COVID-19 crisis recedes. Thank you, Andrew. I couldn't agree with you more. We can't wait to get back in the field. Right now, we're not going anywhere. It's obviously not safe out there. Rich, $10. Please join our movement, April 4th, MLK's anniversary of his assassination, with the 1967 award-winning movie Network-style peaceful protest. Are you in? Email us, info@statuscoup.com. That's info@statuscoup.com. Get us more information. Mike Sarvis, $5 in the super chat. Thank you. So, I don't know. Robert Copeland, $10. I do not see me dropping my Status Coup membership, as we need Status Coup, and also share this video on any Facebook pages that you are part of, as we need more people to join Status Coup. Thank you. You know, I'm going to be honest with you, man. And Jen feels the same way. It's tough right now to be pushing membership. I mean, we started this live stream at 1,834 based on the emails I've been seeing come in with people saying I need to cancel my membership. I don't blame them. I mean, if you need to tighten your belt because you're getting laid off, I get it. I'm not going to, it makes perfect sense, and we hope to see you back once you're in better financial shape. But for those that have been on the fence about joining us, I hope you get off and sign up today if you can afford it. If you can't, if you're losing your job, if coronavirus is really squeezing your financial belt, we totally get it. But we are funded by you. We don't take any money from banks, fossil fuckers, big pharma, big real estate, Silicon Valley, George Soros, Charles Koch, none of them. And we're not going to take that money. So definitely, if you can sign up, do so. If you can't, we totally get it. Wolfpack, $4.99. Do you know the vote total, not the delegates count? Is Bernie up or Biden for the popular vote in total? It's a good question. I do not know that. If Jen or I have a chance, we'll look at that. My gut is Biden is up in that, but I could be wrong. So, to me, I mean, everything I've shown you so far, it's really up to Bernie Sanders. I think he's got a clear opening. He might not win, but he could definitely make it a lot closer. And I think right now, Bernie Sanders should be calling out Joe Biden. Hey, Joe, how come you don't want to debate? The Democratic Party, the DNC, said we're going to have 12 debates. That's what they said in the beginning. Well, we've had 11. I'm ready to debate. Hey, you know what? If Joe Biden won't agree to a debate, then Bernie Sanders and his campaign should market a debate. And they should have Bernie Sanders should announce his own debate with Joe Biden and do it right there on live stream in Vermont, in Burlington, Vermont. Put, what do they call those? Not a real person. Not a mannequin. Blow-up doll. Whatever. Put a Joe Biden doll there and have a moderator asking questions. Shame him if you have to. I don't think he would ever do it. And have the moderator ask Joe Biden the questions, or the Joe Biden blow-up doll there. But now is the opportunity to go against Joe Biden, because honestly, by Bernie clearly not doing Joe Biden any favors, because Joe Biden is right in front of us, losing his lead to Donald Trump. And Joe Biden, again, I think this is so important and frankly very scary. He's got the lowest enthusiasm percentage for a Democratic candidate in 20 years. That's lower than John Kerry. I believe lower than Al Gore. Oh my God. I mean, if you're lower than John Kerry and Al Gore, you got problems. I mean, even the old geezers going to vote for Joe Biden are like, I don't really want to talk to him, but I'll vote for him. Just terrible. Carol Edwards, another $50 for the Joe Biden blow up doll fund. Love it. Oh my God. And I want to address. Hold on. Did I miss any super chats? Mike Sarvis, no. I want to address. Carl Knight had a super chat earlier, but I was kind of in the flow. He said, Jordan, what do you think? Because the Democrats seem to be, really praising and showering Andrew Cuomo with love. Do you think it's possible that they'll take Biden out and throw Cuomo in at the convention? Oh, I do think that's possible. I mean, Jen and I were talking about it. I've thought for a while the Democratic Party doesn't necessarily want to run Joe Biden in the general election. And they are prepared to yank him out before the convention if they have to. But the first priority was making sure Bernie Sanders does not win the nomination. Then they will rationalize whatever the hell reason they have to put somebody in that maybe didn't even run for president, like an Andrew Cuomo. And they'll say, look, he's captured the nation with his daily press conferences. He is a strong leader in New York as opposed to Trump's buffoonery in the face of coronavirus. I think they would absolutely try to drop Andrew Cuomo in against Donald Trump. And let me tell you something. As somebody who lives in New York, if Andrew Cuomo is the nominee against Donald Trump, that's 4 more years of Donald Trump. So yes, I think it is possible. And, one last thing, and Jen sent me this, and I can't understand it. Why Bernie Sanders? It's just Joe Biden gives him opportunity after opportunity. Joe Biden coronavirus ad praises Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan, seemingly forgetting his handling of the AIDS crisis killed thousands. A nationwide TV ad for Joe Biden has puzzled viewers by portraying Ronald Reagan's handling of the AIDS crisis in a positive light. Created by Unite the Country PAC, which backs Biden, the ad firmly condemns Trump's response to the coronavirus pandemic by invoking the images of presidents who guided the country through crisis. Crisis comes to every presidency, the narrator begins, in a somber tone, as Reagan's face flashes across the screen. We don't blame them for that. What matters is how they handle it. The image of Reagan is followed by the famous photo of Barack Obama as he oversees the death of bin Laden, and George W. Bush shouting into a megaphone as he stands in the rubble of the World Trade Center. Donald Trump didn't create the coronavirus, but he is the one who called it a hoax, who eliminated the pandemic response team and let the virus spread unchecked across America. So right here, besides the fact that Joe Biden is praising Ronald Reagan, who was a blatant homophobe, racist, and many other things, what's so troubling about this? Joe Biden is literally running Hillary Clinton's campaign, just having a little bit more success in the primaries. Hillary Clinton's campaign tried this. Hillary Clinton's campaign tried, courting the quote-unquote moderate Republicans who couldn't stomach Trump. You remember that? Hillary Clinton was trying to get the same donors that gave to Jeb Bush. Chuck Schumer said, for every blue-collar worker we lose in Pittsburgh, we'll pick up 2 moderate Republicans and somewhere in Pennsylvania. Unfortunately, moderate Republicans are kind of like extinct polar bears. They don't exist. And where they do exist, they're a very small club. So you could run all the ads you want praising Ronald Reagan and George W. Bush, who, by the way, is responsible for 9/11 because he didn't read his fucking daily briefings that told him, hey, bin Laden primed to strike using airplanes as missiles. Remember that? August 6th, 2001? It's just incredible. That's a good segue, because I have a terrorism expert right here that has some information on how jihadists and white supremacists are using the coronavirus to perpetuate their hate. Are you ready to come on, dear, and give a report? Come on down. My girlfriend Anat is going to give a report on the white supremacists and jihadists exploiting the coronavirus.
There you go. Oh, when am I not supposed to knock over or touch?
Just don't touch it.
Don't touch anything.
Mm-hmm.
Is this right?
Mm-hmm.
Speak. So I'm going to actually deviate from the script and talk about that Tiger King Netflix documentary. I'm just kidding. Jihadists and Nazis and white supremacists. Oh my. So none of this gets reported in the mainstream media. So I guess me and Jordan kind of have that in common. Jordan, you sure they can see me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You sure?
Yeah. You're good.
Okay. So with jihadists, a lot of them are celebrating this, and they're actually, ISIS released this campaign calling coronavirus the soldier of Allah, and they're very, very happy that infidels are getting sick, and China, which is like atheist China, was targeted, and Italy, which is Christian atheists and unbelievers, was targeted heavily. So they're actually celebrating this, and when Boris Johnson was diagnosed with COVID-19 a few days ago, they were just, mass celebrating, super happy, saying he's a war criminal, this is karma, he deserves it. A lot of these jihadists are just not scared because they, quote the Quran, and they're saying that their, lives are predestined. So, the day of reckoning is coming, and they don't have a say in that. So coronavirus or not, they're not scared. But a lot of them feel that this is revenge for non-believers, infidels. So they're actually celebrating this. But I will say it's fascinating how pervasive it is. It's even in Al-Hol, which is a camp in Syria, which is holding about 80,000, mostly ISIS widows and children detainees. So there's even reported cases there, which is mind-blowing. I think that's it really for the jihadists. They're pretty happy and they're not scared because everything is in the hands of Allah. So as the infidels, get sick and die, they're just celebrating. They're having a ball. Let's see, the neo-Nazis.
Talk louder.
Talk louder. Mm-hmm. Well, the neo-Nazis, usually everything circles back to blaming the Jews, which is kind of part of the core. So, this is somehow being blamed on the Jews. Interestingly enough, a lot of them are saying if you have COVID-19, they're actively encouraging you to go to synagogues and lick handles and doorknobs, or go to a mosque and lick the Quran. There hasn't really been any chatter, interestingly enough, about targeting Asians or Chinese, which kind of surprises me. It's kind of the same old Muslims, Jews, let's attack them. Also, of course, they're trying to weaponize this. Let's attack the police, the FBI, the authorities. Some of you probably heard the story a couple of days ago where this individual in Missouri, near Kansas City, his plot was foiled by the FBI just in time, but he was going to detonate a vehicular bomb at this hospital because he was growing kind of stressed about his local government's response to the coronavirus. So a lot of these white supremacists kind of mix with, there's a nexus of anti-government sentiment. So a lot of them are for creating chaos and just, blowing things up, pandemonium, anarchy, to just overwhelm the system. And, in the midst of this, they're circulating DIY weapons manuals and guns manuals, and, they're telling people to stock up, and the boogaloo, or the upcoming civil war might be coming, and it's pretty interesting, but a lot of this really does circle back to Jewish conspiracy theories, of course. And a lot of them are really skeptical, and they're not believing what the government tells them. So I see a lot of these Nazis, they have their gatherings, or the government's not going to tell me what to do. I'm not going to quarantine myself. This is a hoax, blah, blah, blah. The Jews are telling us to stay home. It's part of some grand plan. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
And are you hearing any chatter from the next generation of school shooters about plots and things like that? I know schools are closed, but people that are upset that people aren't congregating in places and want to figure out a way to get people to congregate so they could take them out.
Not so much. I mean, they praise Saint Brennan Tarrant, in New Zealand, but they're not actively planning that on Telegram or anything. Maybe Discord or Signal or something encrypted that wouldn't have so many eyes on it. But they're very aware that the government is in these chats and stuff, because the other day this article circulated that these extremists were trying to weaponize COVID against the government specifically. So,
because I thought gun sales were up.
Gun sales are up, especially among Chinese. But yeah, they're buying more. They're encouraging people to do it yourself and build bombs or other things in the comfort of your own home. So there's an uptick in that for sure.
And how's life under quarantine with Jordan Sheridan?
Everything's just fine with Jordan.
Lovely. What a report. I think you need your own YouTube channel.
No, God, no.
Love it. Thank you, darling. That was my lovely girlfriend, Anat. She does counter-terror for a living, but she's kind of got a dual thing because it's not just jihadists. She's got a double platter. She's targeting jihadists, but also white supremacists. And there's a whole lot of those coming around in these last few years under Trump's presidency. So, thank you for the super chats coming in when Anat was giving her report. And now, before I end today, I want to give you guys an update. Where are we at the GoFundMe? So we are now, thank you, Tanya, just gave us $25. We are now $102 away, $102 away from $91,000 raised on our GoFundMe. So hopefully we could hit that $91,000 before we sign off for the day. Again, all the donations we get today, we're going to combine GoFundMe and Super Chat. We're going to send 20% of the donations you send to this charity to try and help get more masks to nurses and doctors here in New York City. I mean, if you're following on Twitter, you're just reading about it, the nurses and the doctors here in New York City, they're describing it literally as a war zone in their hospitals right now. Just overflow of patients, not enough masks, not enough gowns, not enough shields to protect themselves. They're literally putting their lives at risk. And our federal government has basically left them fighting with one hand tied behind their back. And a lot of the doctors and nurses themselves are getting sick. So even if we could get, 50 to 100 extra masks there, that's what we're going to do. So definitely, if you can pitch in, definitely drop it in our GoFundMe. Jen's putting the funds there, or in Super Chat. And speaking of Super Chat, let me make sure I'm not missing any Super Chats for you fine folks. Hold on. Wow, a lot of Super Chats. Let's see. All right. Chris Garrett, $5 for Anat, rounding out the community. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. Tony, $1.99. Hello, Anat. She is gorgeous. I agree. Anzu, $1.99. Donating for Anat and Status Coup Progressive News. Thank you. Rich, $5. Please watch for a quick smile. Bernie Sanders' Portland rally speech. March 23rd, 2016. I do remember that. It was a beautiful moment when that birdie dropped on Bernie. Rich, $5. Please what? Oh, you just left that. Carol, the second $50. Thank you. Let me see if I missed any. Butterfan, $5. What did Trump mean by saying this is the calm before the storm? I wish if I could Trump-splain what Trump means, I'd be a rich man. I don't know what Trump means, but I can tell you this. Donald Trump is going to recklessly reopen parts of the country for economic activity because he doesn't give a shit about saving lives. He gives a shit about saving his presidency, and he does not want to risk another recession or a Great Depression, and he's willing to risk people's lives to do that. So I think you're going to hear a lot more chatter from Trump, which is not based on science, about reopening parts of the country and this and that. But the truth is, you cannot safely reopen parts of the country because we don't have nearly enough tests. If we had the ability to test 95% of Americans, then yes, you can reopen parts of the country because you would be able to send people back to work that have tested negative and keep the people home that either haven't been tested yet or have tested positive. But we don't have that. And we're not going to have that because Trump, the buffoons around him, did not prepare for this. And certainly the companies he's been enabling or embracing are not getting us enough tests. Rich, $10. Bernie will die but return tomorrow, multiplied 10,000-fold. We cannot allow Trump's ignorance, however great, to take precedence over our knowing, however small. Rob R., $1.99. Biden can mouth policies, but I don't believe him. I agree. I don't really think these progressive groups that are like fighting to get Joe Biden to add certain progressive policies to his plank or to say that he is switching over to these policies. Talk is cheap. Look at a guy's 40-year record. I mean, I'm just being honest. And I said the same thing about Hillary Clinton. Do you really believe that whatever Joe Biden tells you now to get your progressive group to support him, do you really believe whatever Joe Biden says now to, quote, unite the party? Do you really think that the minute he gets in the White House, he's not selling you down the river? This is all about what they need now. Once in office, you don't have any leverage to make him follow through on those things. None. Progressives have no leverage once Joe Biden is in office, unless we get more progressives elected to the United States House of Representatives or the Senate. That's the leverage, because that's the votes. But without that, you're going to just take Joe Biden's word for it when he doesn't believe in these things? No. Sorry. If Joe Biden wants to pledge, capital P, pledge that I now see the need, and on day one, I am going to call for Medicare for all. At least with that, you are boxing him into a position. You are boxing somebody into a position. And once they, if and when they move away from that position, then you have a mighty, mighty good army and reason to unite against somebody and get him out of office as quickly as you can. But these smaller, overtures he's making don't mean a lot of things to me. It doesn't mean a lot to me. N. Willis, $2. Who is organizing our massive general strike? I don't know. Tell me what it is. We'll cover it. Tanya H, what is that? Euros, $5. €5. Thank you, Tanya H. Tony, $1.99. Who is enthusiastic about a guy who can't speak? Tis true. A.R. Francis, $5. How could Bernie get any message out without coverage in the MSM? Only if he assaulted someone, then they would cover it. That is true. They certainly would cover it. Here's what I have to say about that. Bernie Sanders, very easily, if Bernie Sanders, press secretary or his campaign, reaches out to Anderson Cooper, hey, Bernie wants to come on tonight, he's coming on. If Bernie Sanders reached out and said, hey, I want to come on with Chuck Todd and meet the press, they're going to book him. So Bernie does have the opportunity to go on these shows. So he has the platform. However, it's up to him if he wants to go at Joe Biden. He's choosing not to. So it's not a lack of opportunities to get into the media. And you know what? You bring up a good point. I don't want to be like the media and not cover this. So Jen has done, I think, 2 videos on the sexual assault claim against Joe Biden. I haven't done any videos on this. Frankly, Jen and I have been crazy busy on a big story that I'll tell you about in a couple minutes. So here's my thoughts, and it's mixed. Elephant in the room. Obviously, I was smeared as part of the Me Too movement. I still support the Me Too movement, but there are instances when false allegations get out there, and because of this notion of just #BelieveWomen, people throw out, basic vetting and basic facts, right? So even though it's Joe Biden, I'm not going to use my pre-existing bias against Joe Biden to not say, I want to know the facts. I want to know the facts. So to be clear, I have not really looked into this woman's claims that much because I've been very busy. Jen has looked into it more than I. I watched the interview she did on The Hill with Crystal Ball. I thought it was pretty genuine. She seemed genuine to me. It is clearly a he said, she said story. Reportedly, she did tell other people at that time what happened. There's also, I saw this on Twitter, that she retweeted Biden or retweeted something from 2017 where Biden, I think, and Lady Gaga were working together to basically to fight against sexual assault. She retweeted, I think Joe Biden tweeted it out, and she retweeted that. I kind of find that a little strange. If you've been assaulted by Joe Biden, that doesn't mean she's not telling the truth. I just would have to ask her about that if I were to interview her. Why were you retweeting Biden and these things? But to me, the bigger issue, of course, the biggest issue is, did Joe Biden do this, right? Because if he did this, I don't really care. You can't, as a progressive or a Democrat who claims to have values, you can't, if Joe Biden did this, you cannot say, all right, but Donald Trump's done it more. The presidency can't come down to who is less rapey, if that makes sense. I'm not trying to be clever, because it's obviously a very serious topic. But you can't, as a Democrat or a progressive, be like, well, Donald Trump has assaulted more people, so therefore, if Joe Biden assaulted people, he's done it less. The bottom line is, I don't know if he did or he didn't, but what I do know is if a woman claimed that Bernie Sanders while he's a senator, when she walked over to him and gave him his gym bag, basically pressed her against the wall and digitally penetrated her, you better believe that would be all over the news and they would not be waiting for more facts. So I think whether this actually happened or whether it actually happened, whether it didn't, whether it's somewhere in the middle and something happened but not quite what she's saying, I really don't know. I'm just being honest. It would be very easy for me to say, yeah, Biden did it, just because I don't like Joe Biden, but I have to be fair. I don't know. But it is absurd at the lack of coverage of this from the very outlets that were leading the charge against Brett Kavanaugh. You cannot be a champion for Me Too when it's politically convenient for you, but quiet about it when it might hurt your preferred political candidate. And the reason, and by the way, I don't want to speak for Jen, but Jen has looked into this more than I have. And some of the things Tara said about the, Time's Up, I guess wasn't there for her, the Time's Up organization. Some of those things, like, she needs to be asked about, because there are some things that seem to be inconsistent. But what I do know is when I watched her interview with Crystal Ball, when I heard, I didn't listen to all of it because I've been on deadline for a story, but when I heard some of her interview with Katie Halper, it seemed very genuine and very credible. That doesn't mean Joe Biden shouldn't get a chance to explain himself, but it's not enough to just say it's not true. He needs to be challenged on it. He needs to be asked about it. CNN just did another hour town hall with him. Not a word, not a question. This comes after they did a full hour town hall in February and didn't say a word or ask him at all about the fact that he lied about being arrested in apartheid South Africa on the way to meet Nelson Mandela. Are you fucking kidding me? So the fact that CNN is not asking Joe Biden about this, the fact that, to my knowledge, MSNBC hasn't covered this, Yahoo did a story, Yahoo News, but then, like, within a day, they moved the story to their sports section. An accusation of sexual assault, you move to your sports section? I think the Huffington Post did a story on this, but I haven't. I mean, Jen, correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't see it in the New York Times. I didn't see it in the Washington Post. I haven't seen it in the Daily Beast. I haven't seen it on BuzzFeed, major outlets. And I just have a hard time believing it wouldn't be in those outlets right away if it was Bernie Sanders. And by the way, the media is not really doing Joe Biden any favors here, because the very things that the media has been blowing off, the very things that the media has been giving him a pass on, that is the fact that he's lied about his civil rights record, the fact that he's lied about his Iraq war record, those very things, Donald Trump's not going to give him a pass. The Republican National Committee is not going to give him a pass. They got $200 million sitting there waiting. And I don't know. I mean, whether Joe Biden did that or not, what we do know is he has a history of invading women's personal space. That we do know, because there was several women that came out last year saying that. He has a weird history of sniffing children's hair, getting inappropriately physically close to children. So, I don't know. I think he should be challenged about it. It seems to me, whether it's the Democratic frontrunner or the Republican frontrunner, if there's a sexual assault claim, it doesn't mean it's true. But if there's a claim, and you know that there's been things with Biden with other women, it seems like it should be at least covered. And he should be asked about it in interviews. As far as I know, he was on with Chuck Todd this morning. Chuck Todd didn't ask him about it. He just had a town hall on CNN for an hour. I don't know who was moderating that, but he wasn't asked about it. So that's what I think. And Jen reminds me.
Look at the Google Doc.
Look at the what?
Google Docs, Jen.
Hold on. More super chats. Hold on. I sang $20 in the super chat. Thank you for the $20. Hope I didn't miss any others. And by the way, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Bernie Sanders' Florida campaign office was vandalized with swastikas. Bernie Sanders' campaign office in Florida was vandalized with swastikas. A man was kicked out of a Sanders rally in Arizona earlier this month after unfurling a Nazi flag. Well, Bernie Sanders' campaign office in Florida was spray painted with swastikas, a member of his team reported Sunday. The Twitter account, Florida for Bernie, wrote Sunday, hold on. Didn't know if we should share, but one of our grassroots Bernie offices in Florida was vandalized with swastikas. Sheriff sent a team to clean it up, but Bernie is just another old white man, right? And there's been a lot of anti-Semitic stuff spewed out there. Some of it coded, some of it direct, against Bernie Sanders during this campaign. And this is part of it. So, I can't stop us last time, I think it says, with a swastika. So that's pretty horrific and disgusting. I don't know what more to say about it. It's just disgusting that this is the kind of hate going on. That's frankly been enabled by Trump. But it existed long before Trump. But Bernie doesn't just get it from the mainstream media. He's getting it from a lot of different ends. Thank you for the super chat. Rich, $20. The sun is high and the air is crisp. We are facing a glorious dawn. For when our real brothers leave their tunnel, we will not be afraid. The sun will shine down upon us. We accept your challenge. We will give our all. I don't know if you're reading a Bible verse or writing poetry or smoking that good stuff, but I like it. I like it. So, in my last minutes here, I'm going to read a few questions, comments, concerns, and also tell you folks, I'm also going to tell you, today is Sunday. Be on the lookout. Be on the lookout. If you are a Status Coup member, statuscoup.com/join. Become a member for as low as $5 a month, if you can. We know it's hard times right now. Be on the lookout in the next few days. Something major. Could be tomorrow. Could be Tuesday. I believe tomorrow or Tuesday, something big is coming. I think we're going to give members a heads up right before it comes. Something big is coming to town. It's going to be a massive, massive coup. It's going to show corruption on a level we have not seen reported by the media in a long time. Jen and I have been working on this story for 6 months to a year. And now, finally, it's about to be published. If you want me to stop singing, sign up as a member to Status Coup for as low as $5 a month or 16 cents a day. Bahamat, $5 in the super chat. The media can ignore Biden's accuser all they want, but we all know Trump will give her a front row seat ticket to the presidential debate. That's true. Remember, what's her name? Juanita Broderick? Bill Clinton's accuser that Trump brought out in front of the debate. Rich, $20. I think I just read that one. Jen, you want to call me about what's coming in the next few days so we could tease to our audience? Give me a ring. Give me a ring ding. Put on a happy smile. Who's publishing, can you say? Jordan, stick to your day job. Stop singing yuck. All right, I get it. Sing for your supper, Jordan. Love it. I wish Jordan would read the Circle of Evil essay over the air. Send it to me. By the way, for those of you mocking my lyrical skills, in college, they did call me Dr. Dreidel. They did call me Dr. Dreidel back in the day. Jewish rap is a real thing. Jen, did you like my singing?
I was gonna. That's what I was gonna lead with. It was stunning.
I know a lot of the audience. Wait a minute. Let me find. Where is your picture? There she is. I know a lot of the audience is frustrated, Jen, because we've been teasing a big story for a long time. But would you say, in football terms, that we're on the 2 to 5 yard line here?
If I knew what that meant, I would say that.
Would you say we are baseball rounding third base, headed for home?
Yes, I know what that one means. Yeah, so the reason we've been, in quotes, teasing this for so long is because we thought it would be out way back when. And if it were up to us, it would have been out right away. So for a variety of reasons, and I think in the end, it's better than I ever expected this story. Not better as in it's a feel-good story, not by any means, but the chances for justice, I think, are very strong as a result of this. And the story is very, very powerful. So we are almost at home base here.
And we've already been threatened. We've already been threatened to be sued by one of the targets of the story. So that tells you how big this is.
We have some targets of the story that are certainly not happy. We had to wait until the last minute to reach out to these people who are named in the story or talked about in the story. So yeah, we've definitely had some not thrilled responses, and definitely some a bit of a threat, let's call it. So, but it's important. The story is mind blowing. And we could tell them, it's on the Flint water crisis, by the way. Yes, it's on the Flint water crisis. It is not, nobody else has this information that we have that we will reveal in this story. So it's very exciting in the way that hopefully we can finally, hopefully Flint will finally get some justice here.
Right. And to the Status Coup people out there, because, we're 3 hours into this, but we still have over 700 people watching. Let's be real, Jen. These are trying times. We've had some momentum here, gaining members, but we're losing. I mean, I think we've lost like 35 to 40 members. Almost all of them are because they're getting laid off and need to cut costs. But I think this story is going to show how important membership actually is, because really, we would have never broken this unless our members funded us to go back to Flint and keep reporting, because we got this information through repeated trips to Flint, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And we actually went to Flint kind of for a different reason, and ended up having something more major come to us, and that's because of the contacts Jordan had developed over the years, and it just, without member support, we would have never been able to make that trip. And I remember that trip specifically, we couldn't talk about where we were. We didn't tell anyone where we were. And I don't know if some of our longtime members or longtime viewers might remember that time, and I sent out some marketing emails, some emails saying, hey guys, I'm sorry I can't explain where we are right now, but I promise you it's important, and I promise you that it's worth it. And through the support of members, through the support of donations, we were able to stay out there for, I think it was a little bit over a week. I can't quite remember, but without
it was actually 10 days.
10 days, okay, yeah. So we were out there for quite a while, and we had to rely on you guys, and you guys trusted us and had your faith in us, that we couldn't even tell you where we were, but we had members joining, and we had people supporting us, and that meant so much to us. And I promise you, once you see the story, you will see why it was worth it and why it is worth it to continue supporting us here at Status Coup. It is tough right now. I have to tell you, it is disheartening to get emails, cancellation emails, and see people dropping their memberships. But it also, people are explaining why, and the reason is because of coronavirus, because of losing jobs, because of the economic uncertainty. But if you are able to, if it's in your budget at all, $5 a month, you can join Status Coup and keep us doing reporting like what you're going to see from us this week.
Yes, and I will say, if you're a member, if you're a Status Coup member, the story behind the story is almost as good.
Oh boy!
Because when we tell you all the shit we've had to deal with, holy shit! I mean,
I will say that we were definitely maybe 75%, no, maybe 25% joking, and the rest not joking. Looking under the car for like bombs or whatever.
No, I wasn't. I wasn't joking. You remember me looking under the car a few times.
I know, yeah, you definitely. Yeah, you physically laid on the ground and looked under our rental car.
Yep.
Yeah, it was scary, and because what we had, we're not supposed to have it at all. Nobody else has it, and again, that is because of you guys. And I can't thank everybody enough. So if you're able to join, please do. statuscoup.com/join, just $5 a month. Also, we've had people do this before, and it is so, so generous. If you are in a better position financially, we have people who are saying, I really, really want to be a member. I simply cannot afford it right now. I want to support you. I'm really sad that I can't. So if you are in a position where you could sponsor 1 membership, 5 memberships, 10 memberships, if you sponsored 10 memberships, that's $50 a month. I know some people out there can afford that. A lot of people can't, and that's just fine. But if you're able to, it would be very generous of you. You can email us at info@statuscoup.com, and I will manually set all of that up. It would be so appreciated. But otherwise, consider joining. Go ahead and join right now while you're thinking about it. statuscoup.com/join.
Welcome, new member Raul. So
amazing.
And we've been getting, by the way, I mean, we haven't been pushing GoFundMe for months because we met our goal, but we've raised quite a lot of money in GoFundMe today. We're now less than $100 to $91,000. And so hopefully we could get another, $97 we need to hit 91,000. But the reason today we push GoFundMe is we want to send 20% of all the donations. So we're just going to add GoFundMe donations with our super chats to this charity for masks because, frankly, I mean, listen, let's be honest, nothing we're going to send is going to make a massive difference. But if we could get them, another 50 masks, that's good. And we're talking life or death here. And obviously the federal government is asleep at the switch here. So as a progressive media company, we're obviously raising money for our ability to report, but we want to send some of that money there. So
yeah, the federal government is screwing things up all over the place for local governments. You've heard Cuomo of New York and Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan talking about the fact that they're being outbid. These states are having to bid against each other and against the federal government, and they can't get what they need. So it takes individuals helping out with things like masks. So that's why we're happy to donate.
Is Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan part of this story that we're?
She sure is. She sure is surprised that. Let's say, I assume she's surprised at what's about to come out.
Yes. So, thank you, Jen, for all your hard work. And Jen will be doing videos this week, too. So.
Yeah, so keep an eye out. We have some good stuff coming as well. We also, people in the chat I saw were actually asking about the exit poll research.
Yeah. So tell them about Tina.
Yeah, so Tina Desiree Berg, who did a great report on the California voting, the California primary for us a week or two ago. We have her, because we've been working on this story, we have her doing a report for us about exit polling and the potential for things not looking quite right there. So for people who have been asking, we do have someone working on that, Tina Desiree Berg, who is just wonderful. So keep an eye out for that as well.
Yes, and welcome new member Robert. New member.
Hey! So exciting, guys. Keep joining. Amazing.
Yes, keep signing up. Statuscoup.com/join. And that's part of what your membership is. I mean, Jen and I are doing as much as humanly possible, but we've both been working very, very hard on this Flint story. So we are, where we could find freelance journalists that know what they're doing. We're going to, we're obviously paying Tina for her reporting. So we're trying to expand as much as we can. We unfortunately don't have funding to hire like full-time reporters or anything yet. But if we could get freelance reporting from someone like Tina, so she's been contacting the the polling companies and doing a lot of research. So hopefully her report on that will be out this week too. So we will see and let you know when that's ready. And our members, by the way, once our Flint story comes out, I think we're going to give them a little heads up before it's coming out, right?
Yeah, as soon as we know, I think we could probably tell our members.
Correct.
As soon as we know exactly when.
All right. I'll talk to you in a bit.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Folks, it's been real. Let me answer. I'll close it out with a couple questions, comments, concerns. Still have over 600 people watching, which is awesome. I think we were close to 1,000 at one point. Jordan, a rap session soon. Let's see if we can get to 2,000 members. If we can get to 2,000 members in the next, end of March? It's going to be tough, but once we get to 2,000, we'll talk about a rap album. Hell. So, yes, 2,000 members, I think we could do a little rap. Let's see, what a good idea. Who thought of that? I don't know what idea you're talking about. Bernie Sanders is there to fight for us, so he needs to realize he must also fight Joe Biden to get Donald Trump. Couldn't agree more, Alpha. Any criticisms I have of Bernie aren't of the man, it's the strategy. I really, really think he has an opportunity right now to go after Biden, and I'd love to see him do it. And he needs to stop listening to these neoliberals saying, no, you're going to hurt his chances against Trump. I mean, right now you're not going after him, and Trump is up 7 points head to head. Trump is tied with him, basically. So by Bernie doing nothing, he's not helping Biden. I forwarded the new promo video to a number of people and titled the email, My Hero. Why, thank you, Henry. That's not a new promo video. We did that last year, but we wanted to refresh the page. So we put up our old promo video. But it's probably new to a lot of people who have never seen us. So you can tell them it's new. Cow, same here. I see you, Cowardice. Noli, just joined. Thank you, Noli. New member, Noli. Love that name. Woohoo! So we're now at 1,837. 1,837. By the way, we were at like 1,865. So it shows you economic pain is hard. I mean, people are losing their jobs and they got to cut corners. Even if it's $5 a month they were paying to Status Coup, they got to cut whatever expenses are not absolutely critical. And I get it if we're not. We totally get that. So we hope as we lose members to the economic crisis that we gain other members because Status Coup is funded by you, the people. Jordan is seriously the best journalist around currently. Why, thank you. That's kind. I wish I could support Status Coup. Just don't have the money right now, but thanks for all your great work. Can't wait for Jordan to be able to get back on the road doing more reporting. Hey, you can support us without money. Share, like, spread the word. Spread the word to there's a lot of people right now, Joel, who are sitting at home, stuck at home, that might not want to be watching CNN all day. So let them know. Check out Status Coup. If you can't fund us, that's fine. Cowardice. Thanks. I guess Jordan just prefers to ignore my posts. Yes, Cowardice. In addition to speaking to the camera, reading super chats, answering texts, I'm explicitly ignoring you. I didn't see your chat. What do you want to talk about, Cowardice? But don't you call me a cowardice. Cowardice. How did you become a progressive? Was it by magic or through information? Good question. I think it was through working at Fox News for 2 years, to be honest. I worked at Fox. By the time I got to Fox in 2008, I wasn't that into politics at that time, so I was like a little aware, but I basically was very naive about politics. I was like, Democratic Party, blue is great, Republicans awful. And then when I worked at Fox, I realized the Republican Party was toxic and awful. And then when I left Fox and went to MSNBC, I realized, wow, they're just all awful. Fox is more racist than MSNBC, but MSNBC was just nonstop propaganda. And I happen to just, by nature, kind of someone who tends to gravitate towards the proletariat, the downtrodden, those being screwed. I think it has something to do with the fact that I've only seen Shawshank Redemption 75 times. So, I don't know. Maybe it's because, honestly, not that I had a bad childhood or anything, but as a kid, I was a bit of an outcast, ate lunch by myself in middle school a lot, one of those somber stories. So I guess I just gravitated to those who are on the outside looking in. And I think that working at Fox mixed with then working at MSNBC and seeing they're both propaganda just in very different ways. And then, my experiences, when I joined the Young Turks, I wasn't as quote unquote woke as I am now. I think that it was going around the country and seeing that, wait a minute, a lot of these places have Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, and it's destruction and gentrification. I think I realized that there's just one party in America. It's the war corporate power. It's the corporate war party. So I think all of those things kind of, if you mix it together, made me progressive. And I think Occupy Wall Street definitely was one of them, because things that I kind of knew on the surface a little bit, I learned about more. How powerful Wall Street is, how unjust this society is. And of course, Bernie's campaign. I mean, I was already pretty progressive by then, but that woke me up. But I think it was more traveling in 2016 for the Young Turks. I was already progressive, but I think it gave me the in the field, in the trenches. And that's why I always say, it's easy to make statements on Twitter. It's easy to make to give commentary from your studio in your garage. I'm not knocking other progressive commentators, but you get a different sense of things when you're actually out in the field. And I actually used to argue with Cenk about this when I was at the Young Turks, because there'd be times when he's like, yes, and you've gone to Flint 17 times, I want you to cover something else. And I'd say, right, but because you're not out there seeing what I'm seeing, you think I should be covering other things, where if you actually go out into these parts of the country, you'll realize the real scandal, the real corruption, the real thing that represents everything you, Cenk, in this case, are talking about on the show is represented here. So that's how I became progressive. But maybe one day, Jen, we'll do a whole long live stream. We'll do a whole long live stream on how we all got to the places we are. Because Jen has quite the story herself. Quite the story. No judgment, Jordan. I tarnished my soul working for Bank of America some years ago. Tell you the truth, people are sometimes surprised I work at Fox News. This is how politically naive I was. I wasn't that into politics, so when I got the opportunity to work at Fox News, I didn't even know what Fox News was. I just thought it was just like another news channel. And I was like, oh, I just graduated college in 2008. The global economy has crashed. I look like Tom Hanks in Castaway with the beard I was developing, living on Larry and Laurie's couch. I got to get a job. Oh, I'll go work at a news station. It was only, very quickly, I learned it was like the Republican National Campaign. Welcome new Status Coup member Jordan Vasquez. Woohoo! We are now at 1,838 members. Keep it coming. Sign up. But I didn't know what Fox was. I think if I knew what Fox was at the time, I might be more hesitant to work there. But hey, I needed a job. What can I tell you? I needed a job. Otherwise, Jolia will be a toxic soup of the infected. And by the way, if you have time and you have Netflix, there's a show called Dark Money. I definitely recommend it. I'm on season 2 right now. There's an episode about this company, Formosa, I believe it is, that makes plastics. And it is really, really fucking alarming. Just the contamination these terrible companies are putting into communities in Texas and elsewhere. And it's all being covered up. So Dark Money is a really good show if you have the time and you have a Netflix account. So with that, I'm going to sign off for the rest of the day. We will be, if something major breaks, I'll be live again. I should be live tomorrow, judging, unless the story breaks. If the story breaks, I'll be live too, but we might have a lot of work to do tomorrow. We think that the story we've been teasing is going to be out either tomorrow or Tuesday. So we're hoping to have a major story to present to you. So definitely stay tuned. And also, make sure, Nancy, I joined. You did not notice me? Wait, what are you talking about? I don't see a Nancy joining. Let's see. Whoa! I just saw it. Nancy, welcome to the Media Revolution. Nancy. Welcome, Nancy. You joined 2 days ago, so I apologize. Welcome, Nancy. Love you dearly. So keep signing up, and our GoFundMe for the rest of the day. Any donations we get today to GoFundMe will 20% of those donations we're going to send to this charity to give to New York City hospitals so they can get more masks. We are right now $97 away from hitting 91,000 raised. Not bad for a little status coup with no money from all the corporate usual suspects. Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.